A 5-year-old girl lay quietly in her coffin. But the next second, she suddenly opened her eyes. The funeral turned into a scene of horror, sending everyone into a panicked frenzy. "Someone help! The young lady has come back from the dead. Go inform Duke Horace at once." The girl's heart sank. Don't tell me it's really him. Daphne sat alone by the window, her maids whispering behind her back. "Look how pitiful the young lady is all alone. The Duke is so heartless. I want to be kind to her, but her temper is just terrible." Daphne suppressed her fury. As a majestic evil dragon, she couldn't be bothered to stoop to the level of these insignificant humans. More importantly, the person she was waiting for was about to arrive. Hearing footsteps, she dashed to the window and fixed her gaze on the tall, blonde-haired man. This was the very enemy who had sealed her away in her past life, Duke Horace Agwin. What made it even worse was that this man was now the father of the body she occupied. At that thought, she felt her draconic pride trampled. She let out a wail, threw herself on the ground, and threw a tantrum. No, absolutely not. Long ago, there were 5 dragons known as the Fragments of God. They protected the human empire and were beloved by all. But Salus, the Dragon of Calamity, was the exception. Wherever he went, life withered and the land turned barren. No alliance of races could stand against him. That was until the hero Horus appeared. After a long and brutal battle, Horus shot an arrow into Salus's left eye, his one and only weak point. Writhing in agony, Salus couldn't believe it. How could this human know his secret? Horus did not take his life. Instead, he sealed him away for 1,000 years. "When you wake, my descendants will end your life." But Salus never accepted this. What had he truly done wrong? Was it his fault that he was born as Calamity? Yet when he finally awoke, he found himself trapped in the body of his enemy's daughter. A week passed. As his soul gradually fused with the body, Daphne was finally able to move normally. She looked in the mirror at her reflection, golden hair and green eyes, and frowned in annoyance. Why do I have to look so much like that bastard? So far, no one had noticed that the soul inside this body had been replaced. Even that man, on the day she came back to life, had only glanced at her indifferently. "You're not dead?" His tone almost sounded disappointed. He hadn't appeared again since. Even as a dragon, she found it strange. Weren't humans supposed to value blood ties? Why did this man treat his own flesh and blood even colder than a stranger? But there were more pressing matters. This body carried the bloodline of the greatest sword saint, while her soul was still the supreme dragon of Calamity. If she could fuse 1,000 years of magical power with the sword saint's bloodline, she might become an even more transcendent existence than before. Daphne curled her lips into a sly smile. When he inherits the position of family head, and I reveal my true identity, the look on that man's face will be absolutely priceless. I will become the family head, and then I'll destroy this family with my own hands. But Daphne quickly ran into a problem. Back when she was a dragon, magic was imprinted into her soul. Now she could feel her surging magical power blocked behind a dam, unable to be used. She quietly inspected her body. When she saw that her physical strength was 10 and her magic was 0, she was completely baffled. How is this possible? And this is supposed to be the descendant of a sword saint? Suddenly, a sharp pain struck her chest. She coughed violently and spat out a mouthful of blood, startling herself. The maids rushed in at the sound, frantically wiping away the blood and calling for a doctor. Just as we thought, even though the young lady came back to life, this illness still cannot be cured. Daphne panicked. Am I sick? What illness? Was this body about to die? If so, her grand plan for revenge would be ruined. She recalled an encounter decades ago with a sage who claimed to see the future. He had prophesied that Salus would become a worthless existence. Salus had been so enraged that he punched the sage across the continent. Now it seemed that man knew the truth. She had to find him and get answers. But right now, even surviving was a problem. Daphne looked at the twin maids, Anna and Annie. What illness do I have? The two exchanged hesitant glances. You don't like hearing the name of the illness, miss. Yes, last time we mentioned it, you threw a vase at us. Clearly, the original owner's bad temper had left its mark. I won't do that anymore. Don't be afraid. Tell me, what illness do I have? They looked at each other. Black butterfly disease. Daphne recalled the World Disease Compendium she had seen long ago. Black butterfly disease was described as having an unknown cause, suspected to be a black magic curse. Patients would develop black butterfly-shaped markings on their bodies. When all 4 wings of the butterfly turned black, death would follow. There was no cure. She immediately checked her chest and saw a butterfly pattern with half of one wing already black. But she frowned in confusion. If death only came when all wings were black, then why had this body already died a week ago? She asked the maids about the cause of her death, but Anna and Annie looked troubled. We don't remember very clearly. We only recall that the young lady's condition suddenly worsened. Daphne found this highly unusual. How could the maids who were so attentive to her forget something so important? Could it be that someone had killed this body and erased the memories of those around her? One thought crossed her mind. A black mage. She suddenly understood. From the curse to the assassination, this was a perfectly executed plan against this body. Does the outside world know that I've come back to life? No, the Duke ordered us to keep it a secret, as you might die again. Daphne gritted her teeth in anger. At least she didn't have to worry about being assassinated again for now. But that man truly had a venomous heart. She could only vent her frustration by punching her pillow. The maids quickly tried to comfort her. Don't worry, miss. The Duke has hired a famous doctor for you. A elf physician named Teddy from the Inshiha Mountains. Teddy hummed a tune as he arrived at the ducal residence. He had long heard that the Duke's youngest daughter suffered from an incurable disease. If not for the high price, he wouldn't have bothered making the trip. Whether he could cure her or not didn't matter, as long as he could make a good profit. He reached the door of Daphne's room and was about to push it open when suddenly a familiar and terrifying aura washed over him. His face turned deathly pale. What's going on? I haven't felt this kind of fear in decades. His hand trembling, he pushed the door open and saw a 5-year-old girl standing there. The soul emanating from within her was unmistakably the dragon of calamity, Celis. Teddy slammed the door shut, his face even paler than before. Why is that madman here? In the end, Teddy bowed to the dragon's pressure and knelt before Daphne, trembling. The moment Daphne dismissed the maids, he immediately adopted a respectful demeanor and began flattering her. You must be the great Celis. Only you could exude such a powerful and terrifying aura. Daphne basked in the praise. You're quite promising, boy. Are you the exclusive physician for this body? Yes, starting today, your treatment, Lord Celis, is in my hands. From now on, just call me Daphne. Teddy nodded nervously. But he was curious. My lord, how did you end up as a little human girl? Daphne awkwardly looked away and explained that she wanted to experience life as a human. Teddy nodded as if he understood. I see. So that's why you've hidden your magic. If not for our elves' keen senses, I wouldn't have noticed it at all. Daphne quickly changed the subject. With black butterfly disease, can you cure it? Teddy's expression turned strange. Are you sure? Black butterfly isn't a disease. It's a black magic curse. If we can find a way to break the curse, it can be cured. But Daphne was puzzled. This body was only 5 years old. Who had she offended to be cursed like this? Teddy shook his head. To be precise, it wasn't this body that offended anyone. He pointed to the Aegwin family crest. It was the Duke. It turned out that the Duke had once killed a black mage, and before dying, the mage had cursed him, vowing that the Aegwin bloodline would not continue. Daphne felt even more wronged. But why me of all people? Teddy's expression became subtle. It seems you don't know much. It turned out that although Duke Horace had 4 children, the first 3 were adopted. Only the youngest, Daphne, was his biological child. Daphne finally understood. This body was cursed because of the Duke, and because she was his true-born child, she was dying. The more Daphne thought about it, the angrier she became. How infuriating! I'm in this state, and he hasn't visited me even once. That's because the Duchess passed away while giving birth to Daphne. This truth shattered Daphne's entire worldview. This man was far too selfish. Because of his misplaced anger, he had become cold to his own daughter. She rolled up her sleeves, ready to start a fight. Let's go. We're going to beat up that worthless scumbag. Although Horace was the Duke of Aegwin, he had always been looked down upon by some of his retainers due to his status as an illegitimate son. The only reasons he held his position were his strength as the greatest sword saint and the title of Brave bestowed upon him by the Emperor. Even so, his retainers often opposed him in political matters. At that moment, the atmosphere in the meeting hall was tense. The Duke and his close allies advocated opening the granaries to relieve the suffering of the people in the face of an impending disaster. But a faction of retainers, led by a count, strongly opposed this, arguing that it would harm the Duke's interests. One of them even taunted him. The Duke's great compassion for the common people must surely stem from his own days of wandering the streets as a youth, am I right? The Duke was silent for a moment. Then his well-defined fingers tapped the table, signaling for everyone to quiet down. Not long ago, the Marquise's daughter's engagement ceremony was burned down. That is a sign of the common people's discontent with the extravagant lifestyles of the nobility. His voice was steady but carried an undeniable weight. If you wish to continue enjoying your wealth and comfort, you must make some concessions. After all, the common people do not have much patience. A dull thud echoed through the room as his fingers pressed a dent into the solid wooden table. To ease the tension, the retainers quickly changed the subject to the long vacant position of Duchess. Before anyone could finish speaking, another piece of the table was crushed under the Duke's hand. Just then, the doors of the meeting hall burst open and Daphne stormed in. "Long time no see, Duke." Before the stunned crowd could react, she struggled to stand on her tiptoes, grabbed a teacup from the table, and hurled it at the Duke. Unfortunately, the cup sailed past his face and shattered against the wall behind him. Daphne climbed onto the table and advanced step by step toward the Duke. "You recklessly brought this body into existence, forcing me to suffer this curse. And you haven't fulfilled a single duty as a father. You've gone too far." The Duke didn't get angry. Instead, a faint, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corner of his lips. "What's this? Are you resenting me now? You're not even worthy of my resentment. I'm here to challenge you." Suddenly, Daphne grabbed a feather quill and lunged at the Duke's heart. But the Duke easily blocked the attack with an ink bottle. Daphne put all her strength into her declaration of war. "I will not die. I will survive, and then I will kill you with my own hands." After everyone had left, the Duke sat alone in the empty meeting hall, his fingers unconsciously stroking the feather quill. His trusted confidants, Marquis Gallen and Bolin, stood nearby, unable to guess what was going through his mind. Due to the Black Mage's curse, the Duke had been stripped of his emotions. Coupled with his naturally reserved personality, he rarely showed any feelings. But emotional apathy didn't mean he couldn't think. Daphne Agwin, the Duke's only biological child, was born having taken another life and was doomed to die young from an incurable curse. Because of her constant pain, she had grown ill-tempered, often beating the servants for no reason. Eventually, the Duke had confined her to a separate residence. She had died without a sound, but not only had she come back to life, she had staged such a dramatic declaration of war. After thoroughly insulting the Duke, Daphne felt much better. Seeing this, Teddy cautiously prepared to slip away. Daphne narrowed her eyes. "Are you trying to run away from me? How could I ever leave the great Lady Daphne? I would gladly give my entire life to you. But I do have other matters to attend to. Besides, you're afflicted by a curse. There's nothing I can do to treat you. My butterfly wings are only half blackened, which means this body didn't die from the curse. It was murder." Teddy's eyes widened. "Wait. You don't mean to send me to gather information, do you? I'm just an elf. At most, I can contact the Information Guild for you. I really can't do anything else." "You're overthinking it. I want you to prepare some potions to restore my physical strength, slow the progression of the curse, and help me build up my power." Teddy grimaced and confessed, "My lord, the truth is, I'm a fake physician. I'm not a potion maker." Daphne clenched her small fist and glared at him. "Are you refusing me?" No. I'll do whatever you ask. From today on, I'm a potion maker." Daphne smiled in satisfaction. Everything was in place. Now she only needed to recover her strength. The twin maids, Anna and Annie, had recently noticed something strange about their young lady. She hadn't hit anyone for a whole week. She no longer threw things at them. Even her manner of speaking had become old-fashioned. Today, she had even gone to the training ground alone and forbade them from following. Could she be trying to get the Duke's attention? Inside the training ground, Daphne found a quiet corner to prepare a magic container for herself. Everything in the world contained magic, even human infants. The fact that her magic was 0 was clearly caused by the curse. What she needed to do now was draw out the magic imprinted on her soul. Daphne took out a magic stone and swallowed it directly. Instantly, a searing pain coursed through her entire body. She curled into a ball, endured the agony, and slowly guided the stone's energy to break through the blocked magic pathways in her body. After some time, she coughed up a mouthful of dark blood. At the same time, she could clearly feel that a tiny magic container had finally formed inside her. Her magic value had changed from 0 to 1. Daphne was thrilled. "Perfect! If I keep training like this, I'll be able to raise my magic continuously. Truly, I am great. The Great Celis." She carefully collected the black blood containing the curse's power for future investigation. Just then, a stone hit the back of Daphne's head. "Who dares attack me from behind?" She turned around angrily and saw a red-haired boy standing with his arms crossed, looking down at her. "What are you doing at the training ground? What a nuisance! Get lost!" This was the third child adopted by the Duke and also Daphne's older brother, Eris Agwin. Daphne sneered. "Are you done? Let that be your last words." Eris was surprised but continued to taunt her. "No matter how hard you struggle, you're going to die anyway. Why don't you just hide in your room and torment the maids like you used to?" The next second, Daphne's fist slammed into his face. Eris stumbled and fell to the ground, clutching his face in disbelief. "How dare you hit me? What? You hit me first. I can't hit back? How could you do this? I'm your older brother." Daphne rolled her eyes. "I don't have such a shameless brother." Long ago, when she had lived alone as a dragon, Celis had once wondered what family was like. She had hidden herself and observed humans. thinking that family meant caring for and worrying about each other no matter what. But this brother, when she was on the brink of life and death, had only hurled insults at her. "I don't have a brother like you. Don't bother me again." Eris laughed in disbelief. "I never thought of you as family either." He stepped forward and pointed at Daphne's head. "Wake up. You're nothing but a disgrace to the Agwin family." The next moment, Daphne bit his finger. Eris cried out in pain. "Are you looking for a fight? You're hilarious. What else can you do besides get beaten by me?" Eris, furious, was about to strike back when the Knight Commander, Lloyd, arrived and shouted sternly, "What do you two think you're doing?" Lloyd separated them. Daphne was disappointed that she couldn't continue beating Eris. But what Lloyd said next surprised her. He threw 2 wooden swords at their feet. "On these sacred training grounds, you must use swords. Now begin." Daphne's eyes lit up with excitement. If she could settle this with swords, it would be much more satisfying. Eris looked at Daphne with contempt. "You've never even learned swordsmanship. How could you possibly be a match for me?" Daphne silently weighed the wooden sword in her hand. "You're an idiot. Having a brother like you is embarrassing. If you want to fight, then fight. Stop wasting time with words." Knight Commander Lloyd watched the two of them carefully. Although Daphne was the Duke's only heir, she was seen as a stain on the family. She beat the maids, tormented the knights, and was a nuisance all around. He had heard that she had even gone to the meeting room to declare war on the Duke. The Duke had ordered Lloyd and the others to endure her behavior, but Daphne had gone too far. This time, let Master Eris teach her a lesson. But the next second, Lloyd's pupils contracted sharply. What was going on? That young girl who had never held a sword before was holding it with a perfect stance. Decades ago, when the dragon Celis had taken human form and was traveling the world, she had met an old man revered as a swordmaster. Back then, Celis had been arrogant. "Human, isn't a sword just something you swing around a few times?" The old man had rapped her on the head. "Even if you are a dragon, you have no right to look down on my sword." Celis, who had never been hit by a human before, was stunned. But the confidence and determination in the old man's eyes strangely drew her in. So Celis began to learn swordsmanship from him. The old man was meticulous about every detail, making her practice each movement thousands of times. Although it was exhausting, Celis felt fulfilled for the first time. Sweat and tears seemed to have meaning. She even began to enjoy this life. Between the dragon and the human, a deep but unspoken friendship blossomed. A year passed quickly. When Celis came to the old man's cottage as usual, she found him still in bed. "Human, what are you going to teach me today? Stop lazing around and get up." But when she touched him, he was cold and stiff. She stared at his lifeless body on the bed, frozen in place. "Are you dead?" she asked several times, but only silence answered her. Then it hit her, something she had long ignored. Human lives are fleeting. "Weren't you the one who said you wanted me to become a swordmaster?" Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. She didn't even know what this unfamiliar warmth meant. "I never even learned your name." She built a small grave for the old man, carving only 2 words on the tombstone: a human. That was the first time she realized how truly alone she was. For decades afterward, Celis never returned to the human world. She hid in the mountains, practicing the swordsmanship the old man had taught her day after day, trying to forget those memories. In Eris's astonished eyes, Daphne raised her wooden sword high and executed a flawless vertical slash. "Don't underestimate me, you foolish human!" Her form, her stance, her eyes, all were perfect. Just as the wooden sword was a centimeter away from Eris's head, Daphne suddenly stopped. The next second, she collapsed straight to the ground. Everyone was stunned. What had just happened? Only Daphne herself knew. Her physical strength was only 10, and that single strike had exhausted her completely. Eris's voice trembled. "Commander, what I just saw, was that real? Have you ever seen a 5-year-old child with such a perfect sword stance?" He couldn't believe that a sickly child who had never held a sword before had executed a move even more flawlessly than he, who had trained for 3 years. Could this really be because of bloodline? Swallowing his bitterness, he ordered someone to take Daphne back. He gripped his sword tightly. "Commander, from today on, you will personally teach me. I cannot let this little girl surpass me." After sleeping half a day, Daphne finally recovered. She was used to the maid's constant fussing over her. She hadn't expected to pass out from just one swing of the sword. Back when she was a dragon, she had never known what exhaustion meant. Just then, Knight Commander Lloyd came to see her. Daphne thought for a moment. Although she didn't like the commander, at least he was one of the stronger people here, she decided to see him. Lloyd got straight to the point. "Miss, have you studied swordsmanship before?" Daphne shook her head. "At least this body hasn't." Lloyd was deeply shocked. Could it really be talent? He quickly asked Daphne if she had any intention of learning swordsmanship. Daphne sighed helplessly. "Of course I want to. but as you saw, I have a weak constitution. I fainted after swinging a sword just once. By the way, do you know how to increase physical strength? Simple. Just keep running, really? Lloyd changed his tone. Even so, it might be dangerous for someone in your condition. You have a gift as beautiful as a flower, but the vase that holds it is cracked. For now, it's best to maintain the status quo. Lloyd's eyes were filled with regret. What a pity. She could have inherited the Duke's legacy. After Lloyd left, Daphne clutched her blanket, rage boiling inside her. You think I want to inherit that bastard's legacy? How dare you compare me to him? Do you think I'm going through all this effort just to follow in his footsteps? I will surpass him even if this body completely falls apart. Soon, Daphne started running. From barely managing half a lap before fainting, she could now run 3 laps and keep going. Half a month passed, and her physical strength finally rose to 30, while her power increased from 1 to 4. Daphne was quite satisfied. This was going more smoothly than she had imagined. At this rate, she would soon be able to exact her revenge. Of course, the potions Teddy had made for her helped a great deal. Lloyd watched Daphne's efforts with admiration, and his opinion of her changed significantly. Miss, you've been running for half a month now. Since you started training, the morale of the knights has also improved. I am both happy and grateful. Daphne was confused. What did that have to do with him? Even though you are physically weak, miss, you continue to train. The knights have been inspired, and the atmosphere during training has become much better than before. Daphne then noticed that compared to when she first arrived, there were indeed many more people training here in the morning. Miss, do you want to become stronger? When Lloyd asked this, Daphne stopped in her tracks. Of course. Why else would I be doing all this? Lloyd gazed at the girl's indomitable spirit. Only a few people knew about her curse. Even Master Eris thought she had an incurable disease. She would continue to endure pain and injustice in the days to come. Lloyd knelt on one knee and looked directly into Daphne's eyes. Miss, please don't give up. This might be presumptuous of me, but I truly hope you can overcome this. You're so talkative. Daphne's face radiated confidence. I already told you I would become stronger. I am a great being who has never known how to give up. Soon, however, she gave up, at least for the moment. On her 16th lap, she collapsed from exhaustion again. Then a wooden sword was tossed in front of her. It was Eris. Giving up so soon? Get up and fight me. We didn't settle things last time. Let's have a proper match now. Daphne flatly refused. Can't you see I'm exhausted? You're challenging me when you know I have low stamina. I don't have the energy to entertain you right now. Go away. But Eris didn't want to leave. Isn't your health much better now? It's only a little better. I haven't reached my goal yet. Daphne pointed to Lloyd. Find someone else to duel. But Eris was fixated on her. No, you have to fight me. Even if you just go through the motions with me. I said no. Do you not understand? Getting anxious, Eris finally blurted out the truth. I just want to see your sword stance. Daphne paused, then a playful smile spread across her face. Why didn't you say so earlier? If you want to learn, just ask me to teach you. Why make excuses for a duel? She winked triumphantly. Come on, call me teacher. After being possessed by the evil dragon, the ill-tempered Duke's daughter had undergone a dramatic transformation. From a frail invalid, she had turned into a sword master. Even her estranged brother Eris couldn't help but be drawn by her clean, sharp swordsmanship and shyly wanted to ask for a demonstration. Daphne saw right through him. If you want to learn, just say so. Call me teacher. Eris's face flushed deep red, but he still refused to admit it. Dream on. What could you possibly teach me? Oh, really? Then keep practicing with that awful form. If you don't fix it now, it'll ruin you for life. After much internal struggle, his desire for perfect technique finally overcame his pride. Eris squeezed out 2 words in a whisper. Teacher. Daphne pretended not to hear. Finally, Eris gave in. Teacher, please teach me. Daphne laughed out loud. You should have said that from the start. Don't worry. An adult like me will be happy to guide a child. But the lesson didn't go smoothly. Eris's movements were consistently incorrect. Daphne was speechless. Are you an idiot? Can't you get this? At Eris's insistence, Daphne demonstrated the move herself. Seeing her perfect stance, Eris's eyes were filled with admiration. Such overwhelming, unmatched talent could only be explained by bloodline. He resolved to train hard and one day surpass Daphne. But a violent coughing fit interrupted him. Daphne suddenly coughed up a large amount of blood, startling Eris so much that he ran off to find a doctor. Why was she coughing up blood again when she had been fine? Then Daphne remembered what the elf physician Teddy had warned. The physical strength potions might have side effects, such as feeling bloated. Daphne's vision went dark with rage. Bloated to the point of spitting blood? That idiot elf. It wasn't until the next morning that Daphne woke up. She was almost getting used to the feeling of fainting and waking up again. She wanted to find that idiot elf immediately, but suddenly felt unusually light. She checked her condition and found that her physical strength had risen to 50. Maybe the potion was working after all. She'd let him live. Energized, Daphne was ready to go to the training ground to show off. But the knights blocked her way. "Miss, you coughed up blood and fainted just yesterday. You can't push yourself that hard anymore." Daphne's expression turned cold. "How dare you block my way?" The knights pleaded with her. "We're just worried about your safety, miss. If you insist on training, you'll have to kill us first." To their surprise, Daphne didn't hesitate. She pulled out a real sword to scare them off. Just then, a smug male voice interrupted the standoff. "So are you going to disobey the Count's orders?" It turned out that the Count's youngest son wanted to borrow some knights from the Order for a hunting trip, but Lloyd refused. What does the Count's son hunting have to do with urgent business? The Duke has ordered that the knights are not to be mobilized for personal matters. Besides, the Vice Commander and I are assisting Master Eris with his training and cannot leave." The man sneered. "Our young master is an heir of noble blood. Surely you're not going to anger the Count over a common-born child?" Lloyd suppressed his rage. Daphne shook her head, lamenting how pathetic and pitiful humans could be, oppressing each other over status and bloodline. She hadn't wanted to get involved. But then she noticed Eris hiding behind a pillar. The arrogant man continued to insult Eris's common birth. "Don't you get it yet, Lloyd? Once the Duke steps down, those self-righteous young masters and ladies will be thrown out. And since the only real heir is about to die, you'd better start looking for another path. Are you done?" Daphne's sudden appearance startled the man. Miss? What are you doing here? I'm here to send you to your death. Have you finished your last words?" Her cold words made the man panic. Eris fought back tears. Then Daphne's warm words swept away the gloom. "Eris is a child of the Agwin family. Even without a blood tie, he is an acknowledged member of this family." Daphne warned the man sternly. "If you still want to deny it, go ahead. I'll personally arrange a meeting between you and the Duke." Those words terrified the man. He immediately apologized and begged for mercy. But Daphne wasn't going to let them off so easily. "But I'm in a bad mood right now. If just apologizing could earn forgiveness, then what's the point of punishment?" She pointed to the ground, her eyes fierce. "Stick your heads into the dirt." And so a strange spectacle unfolded on the training ground. Several men, their heads planted in the ground and their rears in the air, were dutifully receiving their punishment from the Duke's daughter. Lloyd silently applauded Daphne. Daphne, however, found the human hierarchy ridiculous. But if anyone dared bully the weak in front of her, she would never stand idly by. Just then, Eris appeared with a bouquet of flowers. He blushed as he handed them to Daphne. "Please take these." He awkwardly emphasized that it wasn't an expression of gratitude, but merely to celebrate her recovery. Eris wasn't actually ashamed of being adopted. When his mother was alive, she always said he was her proudest son. He had always treasured the name Eris Agwin, but the malice from outsiders sometimes shook his sense of self-worth. And today, Daphne's unreserved acknowledgement had made him happier than he could have imagined. He looked at Daphne with deep gratitude. "Thank you. And please don't do any more crazy things." Daphne was about to get angry when she realized he mistakenly thought her coughing up blood was because of him. Daphne took the flowers. "I'll make an exception and accept your apology this time." She pulled out a single flower and handed it back to Eris. "Listen carefully. When you do something wrong, you must apologize immediately, no matter who the other person is. The courage to admit your mistake, the pride in overcoming the shame of apologizing, and the self-reflection to resolve not to repeat it. These things together form a person's sense of honor. That is the foundation of yourself. Don't throw it away for the sake of a pathetic ego." Eris took the flower. "You're right, but whenever you start lecturing, I get a strange feeling in my heart." Daphne's eyes dimmed instantly. During the centuries, she was known as the Dragon of Calamity. All creatures instinctively rejected her. No matter what she said, she was only met with rebuke. Perhaps speaking like this was truly meaningless. "But I understand. I'm sorry for making things difficult for you because of me. I'll be more careful in the future." Daphne's eyes widened in surprise. This was the first time anyone had ever accepted her words. Seeing the two getting along so well, Lloyd and the knights were also heartened. The young lady truly was different from before. Another month passed. Through continuous training, Daphne's physical strength rose to 70, and her power increased to 10. She was now ready for actual sparring. Since last time, Daphne had been training together with Eris. Although that boy never stopped talking, he was also quite amusing. Was this what they called resonance? Daphne wondered if she should try to resonate with an elf, but at that moment the poor elf was trembling. It turned out Daphne was punishing Teddy by making him stand on his head because of the potion's side effects. Teddy protested his innocence. "I already told you there would be side effects. You just didn't pay attention." Daphne had been willing to let it slide because the potion had worked well, but this idiot had ignored her summons 3 times in a row. That was going too far. Looks like I need to learn summoning magic first, or you'll just keep treating me like air. I'm innocent. I really was busy. Teddy was the only one crying in grievance. All you ever do is fight and kill, my lord. You're far too brutal. What did you say? Daphne shot him a glare. Teddy immediately backed down. You misheard. That wasn't me. It was another, more degenerate elf inside me. Daphne was speechless. She changed the subject. Maybe I should cut off half of your life source as punishment? Teddy broke out in a cold sweat. The life source was to an elf what a heart was to a human. It allowed elves to merge with nature. If it was severed, they would be rejected by nature and become powerless. He immediately hugged Daphne's leg and pleaded, Please spare me, my lord. Any punishment is fine, but don't touch my life source. Then hand over the magic crystal that gives you your power. Cultivating magic through training is too slow. I want to try using yours. Start by giving me 100 of them. Teddy had no choice but to submit to her tyranny. Then he presented a new potion with great fanfare. This is a new brew of mine. It can break your curse and restore your original power. Daphne's eyes lit up. Not bad. Thank you for the compliment, my lord. But the duration is a bit short, about 10 seconds or so. Daphne was silent for a moment, then pointed to the ground. Get back to headstanding. Yes, my lord. The 5-year-old duke's daughter appeared alone in the wilderness, walking straight into the middle of a robbery. The bandits were delighted. Little girl, how about we sell you to a nice place? Not long before, in order to quickly increase her magic, Daphne had followed the elf Teddy's guidance to the Inshiha Mountains on the border of the duke's territory, where many elves lived. Feeling the dense aura of the elves, Daphne prepared to cultivate her magic. She told Teddy to guard the area. If my focus is disrupted, I might go berserk. Teddy agreed verbally, but inwardly grumbled. Not only did he have to watch over a dragon cultivating magic, but he also had to act as a bodyguard. If anyone saw him, they'd surely think he was crazy. He couldn't understand why, even if she wanted to experience human life. The Great Sealess would choose to possess this cursed little girl who knew nothing about her family. It didn't seem voluntary at all. Teddy just felt sorry for himself for having run into such a crazy dragon. It wasn't until dusk that Daphne slowly opened her eyes. Her magic value had increased from 1 to 8. The results were decent. Just as they were about to leave, a pitiful cry for help came from afar. Daphne paused and looked toward the source of the sound. Teddy urged her to leave. Don't get involved in other people's business. Let's hurry back. Daphne frowned in displeasure. You elves are truly selfish. I'm going to save them. But those humans have nothing to do with you. Daphne's gaze was firm. Because it is my great mission. In the world, all things were connected by cause and effect, and a cause always had an effect. But how the scales of cause and effect tipped often depended on one's perspective. For example, the golden dragon, a fragment of God, could release its breath on a whim and take countless lives. Yet the scales would still tip in its favor, justifying everything as good. But Sealess, the black dragon of calamity, simply because his nature was evil, bore all the misunderstanding, blame, and anger. Even so, the calamity had made its own choice. When Daphne arrived at the scene alone, she found a gang of bandits looting a merchant caravan. Seeing a well-dressed little girl alone, the bandits planned to kidnap and sell her. Daphne calmly surveyed the scene, counting the bandits. A caravan guard trying to hold off the bandit leader shouted at Daphne, Kid, off! But the next moment he was struck down. Daphne walked straight toward the bandits, took out the 10-second potion Teddy had made, and drank it in one gulp. Pathetic humans slaughter each other and meet pathetic ends. But before me, the Great Sealess, I cannot stand idly by. The merchant caravan stared in amazement as this little girl, who had appeared out of nowhere, took down 13 bandits in less than 10 seconds, using only a wooden sword. Her manners and way of speaking might have seemed rough, but her movements were flawless. Seeing her blonde hair and incredible strength, the caravan leader walked up to her and ventured, Excuse me, but are you Lady Daphne Agwin? Daphne glanced at him impatiently. Who are you, and how do you know me? The leader wept tears of joy and grasped her hand tightly. I am Edhart, the Guildmaster of the Golden Grail. It is my honor to meet you, Lady Daphne. Thank you so much for saving us. We owe you our lives. Yes, if not for Lady Daphne, we would have surely died. Thank you for saving us, Lady Daphne. Voices of gratitude rang out from all around. Daphne was stunned. Are you thanking me? The Guildmaster sobbed. Of course. Who else? We will never forget this kindness. In the hundreds of years she had lived as Sealess, even when she had saved every last person swept away by a tsunami, no one had ever thanked her. But since possessing this body, this was the second time. Could it be that because she had been forcibly attached to a human body, the feedback of cause and effect had also changed? If she continued to live as Daphne, would she be able to shake off the name of calamity and live an ordinary life? The cycle of cause and effect that had plagued her for centuries had been broken so easily. She couldn't help but smile bitterly to herself. Just then, Teddy leaned in and whispered, "My lord, I hate to ruin the moment, but you might not have time to be moved." "What is it?" "The potion you drank. It was actually a stimulant. When the effects wear off." Before he could finish, Daphne coughed up a large mouthful of blood. In the Duke's office, his aide Bolin was reporting the caravan robbery. The Golden Grail had been secretly transporting a sacred relic of the Duke's house, but they had been ambushed. The news had clearly been leaked. Only the Guildmaster and his deputy knew about the mission, and the Guildmaster seemed completely unaware. The Duke decided to interrogate the deputy himself. Bolin paused, his tone tinged with disbelief. According to the Guildmaster, when the attack happened, it was Lady Daphne who drove off all the bandits with a wooden sword. The Duke looked up, his gaze full of suspicion. But Bolin had confirmed the story with other guild members. Why did she save them? The Duke murmured to himself, his voice laced with confusion. He ordered Bolin to continue investigating the bandits, then picked up the box containing the sacred relic and left the office. Meanwhile, Daphne was trapped in a turbulent dream. She was still the fearsome evil dragon. One day she saw a village being consumed by fire. She tried to put it out with water from a nearby lake, but it was like a drop in the bucket. She didn't dare use ice magic for fear of accidentally harming the humans. She could only circle above the village, using amplification magic to call out again and again, "Humans, come out of your houses! I will protect you with magic." But in the end, no one came out. Looking at the ruins of the village and the bodies of those who had died huddled together in their homes, she suddenly realized, more than the suffocating flames that devoured houses, humans were more afraid of her, the greater calamity waiting outside their doors. These people who could have survived had all died because of their fear of her. The despair in the dream washed over her like a tide. "I can't save anyone. I am calamity itself." Then the scene abruptly shifted. She was Daphne again, surrounded by the grateful merchants whose lives she had saved. "We all survived because of Lady Daphne. We will never forget this kindness." Their words of gratitude were so sincere, such a sharp contrast to the centuries of isolation she had endured. She was about to say something when she woke with a start. She couldn't tell which was the dream, but perhaps the chains of cause and effect had indeed been broken. Daphne sat up and was surprised to find the Duke sitting by her bed. "You're awake." Daphne's mood instantly soured. "If you have something to say it. If not, get out." The Duke studied her face, then suddenly asked, "I've been curious. Why has your way of speaking become so strange?" Daphne rolled her eyes and couldn't be bothered to respond. The Duke looked away. "Never mind, just answer 2 questions and I'll leave." Daphne taunted him. "Your daughter almost died, and after waking up, you don't even offer a word of concern before interrogating her? How interesting." The Duke remained expressionless. "You said you don't acknowledge me as your father, so I will treat you as an independent individual, not as my daughter. If you don't like it, then you can be my daughter again." Daphne felt nauseated just hearing it. "Who wants to be your daughter?" "First question. Did you know that the merchant caravan was transporting a family relic?" Daphne looked confused. "Relics are gifts from dragons passed down through every family. I can show it to you if you want." "Not interested." "Second, why did you save those merchants?" "Because they were being bullied by bad guys, so I saved them." The Duke was perplexed by Daphne's matter-of-fact attitude. "You'll need to explain in more detail, otherwise the Duke's investigators will come after you." Daphne was impatient. "The strong protect the weak, isn't that obvious? The strong protect the weak." The Duke savored the words. But just a few months ago, she had had a maid dismissed for stepping on her shadow. She had threatened the head chef with a knife because the food was cold. Was that cold-hearted, cruel young lady the same as this girl talking about the strong protecting the weak? Could a person really change so much after dying and coming back to life? Yet her curse was still there, and her body showed no signs of abnormality. "You're done with your questions, now get out, I need to rest." The Duke issued a warning. "If you're planning something, I suggest you stop. I've grown tired of your past misdeeds, thanks for the advice." The Duke handed her the box containing the sacred relic. "This is the White Lion's lamp. Sleeping with it lit will help restore your strength. Even if you don't want to look at it, you'd better watch over it. You earned this yourself." The Duke left. Daphne examined the relic in her hands and couldn't help but grumble. Comes all this way to give a gift and still acts so high and mighty. Humans are so hard to understand. In an underground casino, where nobles secretly traded information, several elegantly dressed men and women were quietly discussing the theft of the Duke's relic. "Has the Duke found the mastermind yet?" Not yet. No matter how much they torture the bandits, they can't get any of them to talk. How strange, not a single clue about the person behind it. But even more fascinating than the bandits' identity is the little girl who defeated them. The eyewitness, Golden Grail Guildmaster Edhart, had naturally become the target of nobles eager for information. Edhart feigned mystery. My story doesn't come cheap. Just then, a long-haired man in a cloak quietly approached and poured him a glass of wine. This is 30-year-old sanctity wine. Would you be willing to continue the story? The wine went down smoothly and Edhart began to talk. The caravan had been safe all the way until they reached the Duke's territory. The escort was the elite of the Orhel Mercenary Corps, each nearly a swordmaster, capable of serving as royal guards. Yet such a force had been utterly helpless against the bandits. Just when I thought I was about to die, a child appeared and knocked all the bandits to the ground, with nothing but a small wooden sword. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. And that child was none other than the Duke's daughter, Lady Daphne. Edhart then looked worried. But right after she dealt with the bandits, she coughed up blood and fainted. The accompanying elf doctor said it was due to exhaustion. The nobles marveled. It seemed that troublesome young lady had truly changed. The long-haired man listened, a mysterious smile playing on his lip. He quietly left the casino. Removing his cloak, his blood-red eyes flashed gold. You never disappoint, Lord Celis. A few days later, a maid burst into the room excitedly. Yes, look what I brought for you. But she found Daphne lying stiff on the ground. Help me up first. Since defeating the bandits, whether due to the side effects of the potion or something else, Daphne had been bedridden for 3 whole days with severe muscle pain. Even so, her recovery was faster than expected. She looked at the white lion's lamp by her bed. Although she hated to admit it, this thing seemed to be pretty powerful. There must be something special about it. She would have to be careful. The maid handed her an envelope. Miss, it's an invitation to the Finch family's ball. It's the first one you've received in 6 months. Why 6 months, don't you remember? 6 months ago, you caused a huge scene at Count Adair's tea party. You beat up over a dozen children. You even broke young Master Adair's nose. Daphne sighed helplessly. All right, put it away. Teddy was once again missing, using the excuse of making potions. He hadn't been reachable for days. At this rate, when would she ever become strong enough to get her revenge? Unable to sit still, Daphne went to the training ground again. She was about to start cultivating her magic when she noticed something shiny on the ground. It was a magic crystal. Seeing no one around, she grabbed it to take for herself. When she looked up, she saw another one not far away. I must be lucky today. She happily picked up 3 in a row. As expected, great people also have great luck. But when she looked up again, there was someone crouching right next to her. Daphne reacted quickly, punching the person in the face. Who are you? Did you deliberately lure me here? Why else would I keep walking to such an isolated spot? The girl who had been punched winced in pain. It's true that I suddenly appeared, but you didn't have to hit me. Daphne eyed her warily. Who are you? What are you doing here? The girl was taken aback and her eyes dimmed. I suppose you're right. I haven't left my room for a while. You probably don't remember me. She lowered her head, her voice growing softer. Then she mustered her courage and shouted, I'm your older sister. Daphne stared at the girl's aggrieved face. You're my sister? Don't tell me you've forgotten my name too. I'm Bepera. She suddenly got lost in her own thoughts. It has been a long time since we've seen each other. It seems to be getting harder and harder for me to talk to people. Anyway, no one likes me. Sometimes I think it might be better to just stay alone in my room and be forgotten. She snapped back to reality and looked at Daphne anxiously. But I'm here to ask for a favor. Could you let me meet your elf physician? Bepera had prepared herself for rejection. She had spent the entire night practicing her request. All right, I'll arrange for you to see him. Daphne had agreed so readily that Bepera felt a strong sense of unreality, because the Daphne she remembered was a thoroughly bad child. Look at the color of your hair. It's just like weeds, ugly. Just looking at you annoys me. Back then, Daphne had been able to humiliate her in 100 different ways, as if hurting others was only natural. She looked at her own dark green hair. Her mother had said it was a beautiful color, even though she had been hurt again and again. Bepera had followed her mother's wish and tried to take care of Daphne, but every time she tried to get close, she was met with even more violent beatings. No matter how cruel Daphne was, Bepera endured. After her mother died, she was just a commoner girl lucky enough to be adopted. She was terrified of being hated, of being thrown out. She only wanted to spend her days in this place where she could still feel her mother's presence. In the end, she locked herself in her room. She had been there for 6 months. For this one chance to see the elf doctor, she had agonized for a full month, even preparing herself to be hit and cursed at. She had never expected Daphne to agree so easily. Daphne watched her dazed expression. What's wrong with you? I already said yes. If you don't want to see him, forget it. Bipera instinctively covered her head. I want to see him. I really need to. Please don't hit me. Daphne's voice held a barely perceptible sigh. Don't be afraid. I won't hit you. From now on, I won't hurt anyone for no reason. After repeatedly confirming this, Bipera finally relaxed. Thank you. It turned out that Bipera kept failing at making potions. She had heard that elf doctors knew a lot about herbs and wanted to seek their help. But Daphne was puzzled. When it came to making potions, weren't dwarves more specialized? Mentioning dwarves made Bipera angry. She had encountered many difficulties when asking dwarves for herbalists. They always demanded strange things from her in exchange for herbs, so she suspected the quality of their herbs was poor. She had heard that elves never lied, so she wanted to ask one and find out the truth. Daphne looked at the girl in front of her and knew that the fact that she was already trying to make potions at such a young age showed her talent. But Bipera might not realize that she had apparently won the dwarves' hearts. After all, if dwarves didn't like someone, they wouldn't even bother to talk to them. The problem was, could that Teddy truly not lie? I can arrange for you to see him, but I have a condition. Tell me everything you know about the Duke, his weaknesses, opportunities to kill him, and so on. Also, tell me everything you know about me. Bipera was a little taken aback. It was nice not getting beaten, but was it really okay to just let Daphne go on like this? On the training ground, Daphne ran even harder than usual, her mind replaying Bipera's words. The 3 children the Duke had adopted were all actually brought into the family by Daphne's mother. After her mother died, their relationship with the Duke had grown distant. The Duke, in order to carry out the Emperor's orders, had to leave the residence twice a month at his busiest. His most recent order, to kill the Black Dragon, the Calamity. So the source of her impending death was the Emperor's will? Why did the Emperor want to kill her? Daphne stopped running and looked up at the sky. Had she ever brought harm to this empire? Even though she was the embodiment of calamity, she had always kept to herself. At the very least, she had never committed any major offenses. So why did they have to provoke her? Daphne gritted her teeth in anger. That bastard Duke! If he hadn't ambushed my left eye, he would have never been a match for me. Her eyes blazed with the fire of revenge. First, I'll kill the Duke, then I'll take care of the Emperor. Not just the Duke's mansion, I'll trample the Imperial Palace as well. I'll grind all of you beneath my feet. 2 months had passed, but Daphne was growing more concerned. The original owner of this body had been assassinated by black mages. Now that news of her defeating the bandits had spread, those black mages would surely know she was still alive. Even more alarming was the fact that the Emperor's order for the Duke to hunt Celis coincided with the time of Daphne's assassination. This was no coincidence. The elf Teddy was also surprised. Black mages have always worshipped Lord Celis as a deity, yet they are mercilessly trying to kill Lady Daphne. How contradictory. Did you discover something? Teddy couldn't hide his excitement. This kind of story, entangled past and present lives, love and hate, is perfect material for a novel. My lord, shut up. Yes, my lord. Daphne instructed Teddy to find a way to get her into the Duke's main residence. The separate residence she lived in was heavily fortified with many barriers, but the main house had no such protection. If she appeared there, the black mage would surely make a move. Teddy agreed. The number of barriers here is suffocating, but even if we manage to lure out the assassin, we might still come up empty-handed. Daphne knew that too. Even if she caught the assassin, the truth might remain elusive. Then she remembered someone, the great sage who claimed to see the future and had prophesied that she would become a worthless existence. He must know something. Find out where the great sage is. Teddy pointed at himself, looking incredulous. You're asking me to do that? My lord, you talk about such a difficult task as if it were as easy as helping a neighbor dig up some dirt. If I'm running around gathering information, that'll cut into my potion-making time. I might not be able to deliver your potions on schedule. Daphne curled her lips into a sly smile. Don't worry, I've already found a disciple for you. Teddy had a bad feeling. Please don't tell me it's a human. Exactly right. From now on, you'll be teaching that child how to make potions. Teddy refused without a second thought. Absolutely not. Even if I am not worthy of tying your shoelaces, my lord, I am still a renowned elf. There's no way I'm taking an ordinary human as my disciple. If that child is talented, you won't have to make potions yourself anymore. Teddy's attitude changed instantly. Actually, I've been wanting to take on a disciple for a long time. What's the name of this promising young alchemist? I will surely train her to be the greatest in all of humanity. Her name is Bipera. You'd better not let me down. Soon the day of the Marquis Finch's ball arrived. Early in the morning, the 2 maids fussed over Daphne, changing her dress, accessories, and shoes repeatedly. Daphne pinched the bridge of her nose. Can't I just dress simply? Oh my miss, what are you saying? You will undoubtedly be the most dazzling person at the ball tonight. Daphne sighed helplessly. She was already tired. She had heard that this was her first public appearance in 6 months. People's curiosity about her must have faded by now. She could just make an appearance and then slip away. Meanwhile, at the Marquis Finch's residence, the Marchioness was instructing her daughter, Tulisa. When Lady Daphne Agwin arrives, what will you do? I will go up and greet her. When she is in a good mood, I will offer her some pastries. And if she is not in a good mood, then I'll stay as far away as possible. It's safer to keep my distance than to get close and be hit. The Marchioness nodded approvingly. Despite her repeated instructions, she was still nervous. But this opportunity was too rare to miss. Lady Daphne's heroic act of defeating the bandits had become a hot topic in aristocratic circles. Everyone wanted to catch a glimpse of the girl at the center of the rumor, yet no one dared approach easily. After all, half the noble children in the capital had been beaten by her. Tulisa had never met her. Because Daphne had confirmed her attendance, the number of guests that night was double the usual. The Marchioness prayed silently that nothing would go wrong. At the beginning of the ball, guests began asking when Daphne would arrive. She will be a little late due to the long journey, but since she confirmed she would come, she will certainly be here. Some had even declined other invitations just to witness firsthand the legendary 5-year-old who had defeated bandits. Just then a man stepped forward. Ladies, do you all truly believe this rumor? A 5-year-old child defeating bandits that even the Orhel Mercenary Corps couldn't handle? Isn't that just the guildmaster exaggerating? His words sparked murmurs. Many noble ladies began to waver. I've heard that Lady Daphne is sickly and suffers from an incurable disease. Yes, that's why the Duke allows her to do whatever she wants, right? Seeing the shift in public opinion, the man looked smug. A dying child suddenly defeating a gang of bandits? That simply defies all logic. The Duke hasn't been summoned by the Emperor lately. I suspect they're trying to manufacture a story to promote this young lady. The Marchioness suddenly interrupted. But that is only your speculation. There is no evidence. The man smiled slyly. You're right, but can't we verify her abilities? Just then, a servant announced loudly, Lady Daphne Agwin has arrived. Dressed in a white gown, Daphne slowly entered the hall and instantly became the center of attention. The guests murmured. That is Lady Daphne. She looks even more frail than I imagined. The guildmaster's story must indeed be an exaggeration. Nevertheless, the noble ladies wanted to approach her and strike up a conversation. Daphne herself was the only one who looked confused. Why is everyone staring at me? After being possessed by the evil dragon, the young girl attended her first human ball, but she felt distinctly isolated. Everyone kept their distance, just watching her. No one dared to come closer. Daphne frowned. It seemed the original owner's notoriety was even more deeply ingrained than she had thought. She decided to break the ice and find out some information from the other children her age. She approached 3 little girls who had gathered together. What are you doing over there? But her well-intentioned smile in their eyes was terrifying. As soon as they saw her, their faces turned pale. Daphne was puzzled. Were they sick? Tulisa was the first to react. She quickly curtsied. Please don't be angry, Lady Daphne. My name is Tulisa Finch. We were just so surprised that you came over to greet us personally. I apologize for not responding promptly. She turned to the other 2 girls who were still trembling and told them to apologize. It's only natural to feel nervous and in awe upon seeing you. Can you forgive us this once? The children immediately understood and begged for Daphne's forgiveness. Daphne, however, completely misinterpreted this overly cautious explanation. I see. You mean that because I am a great and noble existence, you feel frightened and are bowing down to me? Tulisa hadn't expected her to interpret it that way, but to avoid angering her, she nodded eagerly. Because you are the great Lady Daphne, that is only natural. She eagerly invited Daphne to sit down. The other 2 girls brought her pastries and drinks. If you need anything else, please just say so. Daphne basked in the treatment. She would have to show off about this later. This pink-haired girl seemed quite clever. She could make her direct subordinate. Suddenly, a boy shoved Tulisa aside roughly. Get out of the way, you're in the way! He swaggered up to Daphne and threatened. Daphne Agwin, ever since you broke my nose, I've been waiting for this day. Today I'll have my revenge. I'll show you what real fighting is. Daphne glanced at him lazily. Who is this? Some poor fool beaten by the original owner? She looked at Tulisa, who had been knocked to the ground, and frowned slightly. Where are you looking? Don't think you can sneak attack me like last time. I heard you've been practicing swordsmanship too. Let's have an honorable duel. He threw a wooden sword at Daphne's feet and continued his loud taunts. A scoundrel and liar like you wouldn't understand honor, would you? In a hidden corner on the 2nd floor, Duke Brown was watching the commotion with a cold smile. Duke Horace must be desperate not having been summoned by the Emperor lately, so he's hyping up his daughter, creating false rumors to gain attention. With a little provocation, that irritable young lady is sure to fall into the trap. And his son, Mark, an advanced squire, will publicly expose her bluff. Then all the stories about her heroism will turn into a complete scandal. Horace Agwin, you have only yourself to blame for seeking trouble. Mark pointed his sword at Daphne. If you apologize now, I might let you off. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. Daphne slowly stood up. It's quite clear that you'll only be knocked out with one blow. Don't you care about your pride? How foolish. His pride stung. Mark erupted in rage. I am a squire. Pick up your sword. I'll show you my true strength. Against someone like you, I don't even need a sword. Bring it on. Mark let out a roar and charged at Daphne with his sword. Daphne pulled out a handkerchief and, at the moment the sword thrust toward her, twisted it around the blade, immobilizing it. Mark's eyes widened in shock. Impossible! Daphne used the sword to pull him forward, grabbed his collar with her other hand, and whispered in his ear, You're 100 years too early to try and take me on, boy. The next second, Mark hit the ground hard. He lay there, muttering in disbelief, Impossible! Daphne looked at him with disgust. You pushed a little girl? How rude. The guests were stunned. Lady Daphne had defeated a squire with a single blow. Duke Brown's face was dark with fury. Could the rumors actually be true? Daphne walked over to Talisa. Are you hurt? Talisa paused, then carefully took her hand. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. Her cheeks flushed. Could Lady Daphne have fought for her sake? She seemed so warm and kind, nothing like the terrifying rumors. Daphne sighed wearily. If you're fine, bring me some refreshments. That little move made me a bit dizzy. Yes, Lady Daphne. Seeing the crowd slowly gather around her with varied expressions, Daphne decided to leave. She went to the terrace to get some fresh air. Being a popular dragon was so tiring, and this body was still too weak for her liking. She couldn't help but mutter under her breath, When will this damn body ever get better? But things are slowly improving, aren't they? Hearing a man's voice behind her, Daphne spun around. A long-haired man gracefully bowed to her, a hint of profound amusement in his eyes. Long time no see, Lady Daphne. Or should I call you Lord Salus? The girl was contemplating life on the terrace, when a long-haired handsome man appeared silently behind her. Long time no see, Lady Daphne. Or should I call you Lord Salus? The moment Daphne saw who it was, she got excited. Great sage! I've been searching all over the world for you. The great sage gave a smug smile. I didn't expect you to miss me so much. I'm touched. Unfortunately, what you see now is just my projection. Realizing she couldn't give him a beating, Daphne suppressed her anger and got straight to the point. Did you know all along that I would end up in this body? The great sage stroked his chin thoughtfully. It's a long story, but I don't have much time. Simply put, you're in this human body because you died, Lord Salus. Daphne's fist clenched. That's nothing but nonsense. If I reveal the answer now, it wouldn't be any fun. But I came to warn you. Be careful of those black mages. They'll be making their move soon. Black mages were originally humans who worshipped Salus, the Calamity. In order to use black magic, they burned their own life force to wield the power of death. Their power was limited, and their numbers were dwindling. Daphne was dismissive. Why should I be wary of such insignificant existences? The great sage smiled mysteriously. When a person is pushed to the brink, they will do anything. If you find your original body, you'll understand. Daphne hadn't expected that her dragon body still existed. Before she could ask further, the great sage's projection began to fade. Take care, my lord. I look forward to seeing you again. Daphne tried to chase after him, but the projection left no trace behind. She felt she had been toyed with. The dignity of the great evil dragon was being played by a mere human. You bastard great sage, I'll make you my #1 target for annihilation. Just you wait. Just then, the entire building began to shake violently. Daphne, still unsure what was happening, felt a dense wave of death energy surging from the ballroom. Remembering the great sage's warning, she had a bad feeling. Inside the hall, explosions had caused collapses, and the guests were in chaos. The Marchioness stumbled through the rubble, frantic. Where are the children? We have to rescue the children first. But a man roughly pushed her aside. Get out of my way. I need to get out of here. I won't die for nothing. He grabbed a servant by the collar. Take me out of here. Find me a secret passage with fewer people. Suddenly, a stone hit the back of his head. The man cried out in pain and turned around to see Daphne glaring at him. You think your life is the only one that matters? You're willing to let others die so you can save yourself? Didn't you hear everyone shouting that we need to save the children first? Embarrassed and speechless, the man turned red. Daphne turned and handed a little girl she had rescued to the Marchioness. Take this child and go. Be careful. The Marchioness nodded solemnly, took the child, and hurried away. Daphne continued to search through the chaos, bringing children to safety one by one. The death energy continued to spread. There must be a source somewhere. She had to find it before the building collapsed completely. Daphne smelled something pungent. A fire had broken out and thick smoke was filling the air. The situation was growing more complicated. Beside her, a little girl was coughing uncontrollably. Daphne gave her a handkerchief to cover her mouth and nose. Human children are so fragile. A little smoke inhalation could suffocate them. She couldn't let them die here. She called out to some adults who were fleeing. "Hey there! This child is in bad shape. Take her out of here, quickly." They immediately responded, took the child, and ran toward the exit. The fire grew larger, but Daphne's resolve only hardened. She stood resolute in the flames. The weak must be protected. I, the great evil dragon Celis, will make sure every last one of them gets out safely. After a tireless effort, most of the people had been evacuated. Just then, the man who had taken a child out earlier came back. "Lady Daphne, rescue teams will be here soon. You should leave too. Come on, let's go out together." Seeing the sincerity in his eyes, Daphne gave him the dragon's approval. "You pass? Now go. I need to go back inside and check again." "But you're injured, my lady, don't you realize that?" The man was deeply moved. A child who would sacrifice herself for others, even at the risk of her own life. Why had she endured such infamy before? As a newspaper publisher, he would make sure that Daphne's noble deeds were widely known. The next second, he scooped Daphne up and ran toward the exit. Daphne struggled. She hadn't found the source of the death energy yet. Then a faint cry for help came from deep within the fire. Daphne broke free from his embrace and rushed headlong into the flames. The 5-year-old girl, Daphne, ran alone into the burning building, struggling through the scorching heat and thick smoke. She had heard a cry for help coming from here. Where was it? Finally, she spotted a small figure curled up. It was Tulisa. Daphne rushed over without hesitation. "Everyone else has evacuated. Why are you still here?" Seeing Daphne, Tulisa burst into tears. "I'm sorry. My leg is stuck under a rock. I can't move." "Don't be scared. I can lift this rock. I'll count to 3, and you pull your leg out." Daphne put her hands on the rock and lifted with all her might. Finally, it moved. Tulisa was free. She noticed that Daphne's hands were cut and bleeding from the sharp rocks, and her eyes filled with concern. Daphne wiped her hands casually on her dress. "Now's not the time to worry about that. Is there anyone else here besides you?" "When the explosion happened, I evacuated the other children first. When I came back for one last look, I got stuck under the rock." Daphne looked at her with a hint of surprise and then approval. "You did well. As expected of the subordinate I chose." She reached out her hand to Tulisa. "The entrance is blocked. Let's find another way out together." Just then, Daphne felt a thick, cold wave of death energy. She stared at a table not far away and slowly approached it, crouching down. Under the table was a small box. Carefully, she pulled it out. It was a bomb. Tulisa was horrified. "What do we do? Can't we just disarm it?" Daphne's expression was grave. "It's made with black magic. It can't be disarmed." She could sense the violent death energy within it. If it exploded, the entire Finch mansion would be reduced to ashes. Everyone outside, everyone who had just escaped, would die. She had to find a way to deal with it here. Tulisa's voice trembled with fear. "Are we going to die here?" "Who said anything about dying? With me here, what is there to be afraid of?" Suddenly, an idea flashed through Daphne's mind. The evil dragon. Celis's magic and black magic both originated from the negative energy of death. The two forces were almost identical in nature. If she could handle the difference in energy, she could absorb it and turn it into her own magical power. That meant that to Daphne, this black magic bomb was like a delicious meal. "I'm going to detonate this bomb now. You stand back." Tulisa was stunned. Daphne pointed to a blocked passageway. "The blast from the explosion will clear the rubble. That's your chance to escape." "Wait, what about you, Lady Daphne?" "I must stop the explosion from spreading. Besides, for me, this might be an opportunity to increase my magic." Daphne's voice was firm, her eyes blazing with determination. She urged Tulisa to get ready and, ignoring Tulisa's protests, ran to the center of the hall with the bomb. But to Tulisa, it looked like Daphne was bravely sacrificing herself to save everyone. And she acted as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Remembering how Daphne had reached out to her and risked her life to save her, Tulisa was moved to tears. "I can't let Lady Daphne die." Meanwhile, Daphne had already begun to focus all her magical energy. "Let this explosion be turned into my strength." On the outskirts of the territory, Duke Horus swung his sword, felling the last magical beast. His aide Bolin examined the grotesque, twisted corpses on the ground. "These magical beasts look unlike anything we've seen before. They're chimeras, forcibly fused together." The Duke wiped the blood from his sword, his eyes sharp. "Only black mages can perform this kind of modification, and these magical beasts are just the beginning." He had grown weary of the black mages. From now on, leave the cleanup of magical beasts like these to the knight's order. Bolin looked at the Duke's back, his heart heavy. The Duchess had been killed by black mages, and Lady Daphne was in dire straits. No one hated black mages more than the Duke did. Who knew what inner turmoil he was hiding behind his calm exterior? Just then, a loud explosion echoed from afar. Both men looked up and saw thick smoke rising from the direction of the Finch territory. The Duke immediately sensed the magical disturbance and frowned. Death energy, the black mages are moving faster than I anticipated. He watched the burning building, then suddenly thought of something and strode off in that direction. At the sound of the explosion, everyone outside was terrified. Then, to their horror, they saw 5-year-old Daphne surrounded by a swirling vortex of dark purple magic. In truth, Daphne was desperately trying to absorb the black magic energy from the explosion. But its power far exceeded her expectations, spreading faster than she could absorb it. Daphne was struggling, her entire body trembling from the effort. Without Teddy's 10-second potion, she wouldn't have been able to hold on for even this long. The black magic pounded against her internal organs like a raging tide. The pain was so intense she wanted to give up and release all the energy. But reason told her she absolutely could not. If she let go, not only would this body be destroyed in an instant, but every person present would also be doomed. I just saved them all. I can't let them die again. I am no longer a calamity. Since the chains of cause and effect have been broken, I will prove my true goodwill. This time, I won't be the me who couldn't save anyone. She gathered all her willpower and frantically absorbed the rampaging black magic. But soon, blood seeped from the corners of her mouth and the purple light in her eyes began to fade. The potion's effect was wearing off. Her consciousness began to blur. Just a little longer. Just a little longer. At the moment she was about to break, a brilliant holy light tore through the darkness. The Duke appeared, his long sword in hand. Wherever his sword energy passed, the death energy was instantly purified. Daphne stared at the figure and the pressure around her suddenly vanished. Her legs gave way, but she fell into a strong embrace. Daphne, you've done well, you can stop now. The Duke's voice, usually so cold, held a hint of warmth. Daphne weakly raised her small hand, her eyes filled with satisfaction. The Duke's heart softened, unaware that she was actually staring at her own magic value, which had shot up to 50. Finally, she fainted. Meanwhile, Talisa had managed to escape from the rubble and threw herself into the Marchioness's arms. Mother and daughter wept with joy. My daughter, thank goodness you're safe. Do you know how worried I was when I couldn't find you? I'm sorry, Mother. I was trapped under a rock and Lady Daphne saved me. The Marchioness was incredulous. Then Count Milan stepped forward to confirm it. That's right. I tried to evacuate Lady Daphne, but she suddenly ran back inside. It must have been to save Lady Talisa. Yes, Mother. She even shielded me from the black magic bomb with her own body and insisted on sending me out first. The mention of a black magic bomb made everyone gasp. Count Milan nodded gravely. I've encountered this power before. It is a deathly aura that can consume life itself. The faces of the guests paled. Could Lady Daphne have been facing such a thing? By the time Bolin arrived, the Duke was already carrying Daphne out. Seeing her battered and motionless, Bolin's face turned pale. The lady hasn't died again, has she? No, thank goodness. I thought we'd have to prepare another funeral. Suddenly, a crowd of survivors pressed forward, asking anxiously about Daphne's condition. Is Lady Daphne in danger? Should we call a doctor? If she was injured by black magic, she'll need holy power. Lady Daphne was injured because she saved us. Seeing the concern, Bolin wanted to say something, but the Duke had already turned to leave. Bolin frantically signaled him to stay. Even if we're leaving, we should at least explain the situation. This is about the lady. The Duke said calmly, anyone with eyes can see what Daphne did. No explanation needed. And indeed, as the Duke said, people had already begun to recount and confirm what had just happened. It was Lady Daphne. She threw herself into the path of the deadly death energy and saved us all. She is a true hero. But the Duke's face showed no relief. Hero? It's just an empty title. If she had died, all that praise would be useless. He didn't linger and signaled Bolin to return quickly. Behind them, the rescued crowd still looked longingly at the small figure. The moon was dim in the deep night sky. In a dark forest, a figure in a black cloak appeared silently. Several subordinates immediately knelt trembling and reported something. The figure spun around, revealing a bandage-wrapped face. His fierce eyes swept over the group. Are you telling me our plan failed? A 5-year-old girl single-handedly withstood the shockwave of a powerful black magic bomb, not only foiling the black mage's scheme but also saving over 100 innocent lives. From ancient times, black mages had been seen as the embodiment of evil. To disrupt the flow of life energy, they had slaughtered the white dragon, the source of white magic. This had invited a massive purge by Duke Horus. A handful of survivors had escaped and formed a secret organization called Ghost. They had lurked in the shadows for 5 years, sharpening their blades of vengeance, waiting for the day to announce Ghost's return and exact revenge on the Empire. But the plan had failed. The leader looked down at the kneeling subordinates, his eyes blazing with fury. I said that if your mission fails, you are to take your own lives. Yet you have the face to come back alive? Do you hold me in such contempt? One of the black mages groveled hastily. Calm yourself, leader. It's not that we fear death. There is important information we must report. Daphne Agwin, the Duke's daughter cursed by our former leader, absorbed the bomb's energy. The leader's pupils contracted. Wasn't he already dead? Inside Daphne's body, besides the former leader's curse, there was also a vast amount of death energy. If they could kill her before the curse manifested, they could reclaim that power. And the leader had ordered Daphne's death months ago. Facing the leader's skepticism, the black mage swore repeatedly. We did kill Daphne, but he is somehow still alive. The leader clenched his fists, seething with rage. Must the Duke's family oppose us at every turn? No matter what, those who stand in Ghost's way will not be forgiven. That accursed Duke killed our deity and our kin. He and his daughter must both disappear. With that, he raised his hand and snapped his fingers. The kneeling black mages let out horrible screams as their bodies quickly turned into wisps of white smoke. Ghost will take that small amount of death energy. Now it's time to search for the Calamity's corpse. After the attack, the reappearance of black mages caused an uproar. The public was terrified, and public opinion was in turmoil. As Duke, Horace faced far more pressure than that. 3 days had passed since the incident. The imperial family had been heavily criticized for their response, yet they had not yet summoned him. Was it because Daphne, who had stopped the explosion, still had not woken? She had not opened her eyes for 3 days. The Duke looked at the elf physician Teddy, who was mixing a potion. Only 3 days, Your Grace. He will wake up soon. Do not worry. Teddy knew that Daphne had fainted because she had absorbed too much black magic. She would recover quickly with some restorative potions. If he is about to die, please let me know in advance. Teddy couldn't believe what he was hearing. What did you say? If he is going to die, we need to prepare for the funeral. Seeing how casually the Duke said this, Teddy found it utterly absurd. Hell is wrong with this guy? Even the coldest elf wouldn't say something like that. What a trash human! The Duke quietly watched Daphne's pale, sleeping face. He remembered another article in today's newspaper praising Daphne's heroic actions. Count Milan kept publishing favorable stories. The Marquis Finch family sent gifts every day. Everyone was genuinely worried about her safety. If not for the curse placed on him 5 years ago by that black mage, which had stripped him of his emotions, he would surely be just as anxious for his daughter right now. After all, Daphne was the only blood left in this world of the woman he had loved. But when Daphne had stopped breathing for the first time, his heart had been utterly silent, devoid of any emotion. Even he found it cruel. He recalled that day when Daphne had screamed at him hysterically. Why did you give birth to me? You should have saved Mother and killed me instead. Since I'm going to die anyway, why didn't you just let me die back then? You don't care about my death at all. That day, faced with Daphne's accusations, the Duke had been speechless. He couldn't feel anything. No sadness, no anger, no guilt. He couldn't feel anything at all. Even when Daphne had charged at him with a sword, he thought that if he died by her blade, it might actually be a form of release. But in the end, he had not met that fate. What a cursed dream, a voice broke into his thoughts. Daphne sat up abruptly. The moment she saw the Duke sitting by her bed, she scowled with disgust. An even more cursed reality. The Duke's face darkened, but before he could speak, she lay back down. I need to rest. You get out. Being so bluntly dismissed by his own daughter left the Duke speechless. Daphne turned her head impatiently and glared at him. What are you looking at? Imagine how you'd feel if you opened your eyes and saw my face. How disappointing. Looking at her angry profile, the Duke unconsciously raised the corner of his mouth. Then, realizing what he had done, he quickly covered his mouth in surprise. Did I just smile? The girl had fainted from the bomb blast and remained unconscious for 3 days. When she finally woke, her body was so weak that even picking up something small was a struggle. However, after absorbing the black magic bomb, her magic value had skyrocketed to 51. An idea flashed through Daphne's mind. If she went directly to find those black mages and absorb their power, wouldn't she recover even faster? But in her current state, even moving was difficult. She could only eat a few magic crystals to restore her magic. Just then, the maids Anna and Annie came in, carrying delicious sandwiches. Annie gently wiped Daphne's hands, her eyes full of concern. You look even frailer than before, miss. The little weight you had managed to gain seems to have disappeared again. Daphne's severe injury had truly frightened Annie. While she thought her mistress's heroic act of self-sacrifice was admirable, She wished Daphne would be more considerate of her own well-being. But Anna disagreed. What our young lady did was absolutely remarkable. She brought out a thick stack of letters. These are all letters of gratitude from the people you saved. It's completely different from before when everyone avoided you. Now everyone is hoping to thank you in person. They're finally beginning to understand your true heart. You've done very well, miss. It was the first time Daphne had seen Anna smile so genuinely. So this is what it felt like to receive sincere praise and recognition from humans. She unconsciously put her hand to her heart, a strange warmth making her uneasy. She opened the letters. The words were full of gratitude. Lady Daphne saved my child. Please do us the honor of visiting our humble home. We will never forget this kindness. This feeling was much more profound than a simple thank you. So this was the joy of having one's kindness reciprocated, one's sincerity accepted. It was because she was Daphne, not the fearsome evil dragon of the past. Finally, she had broken free from the cycle of cause and effect that had tormented her for centuries. She was being treated as an equal for the first time. The absurdity of this realization almost made her laugh, but the joy that welled up within her was enough to cover the painful memories of being reviled for trying to save others. Miss, the doctor says you can move around a bit. Would you like to return to the separate residence? Daphne shook her head, a hint of an unreadable smile on her lips. I'm going to stay here a few more days because a guest is coming. In the dead of night, a shadow took advantage of the darkness to silently sneak into the room and coalesced into the form of a man by the bed. He quietly watched Daphne, who appeared to be sleeping. She really is still alive? I clearly confirmed she was dead last time. How could this be? Regardless, this time she must be killed thoroughly. He had chosen tonight specifically because the Empire's greatest sword saint, Duke Horace, had been summoned to the palace. The Duke's senses were incredibly sharp. He could hear a falling leaf from 100 meters away. His mere presence was a defense of the highest order, and the surrounding buildings were filled with powerful magical barriers, making them nearly impossible to approach. Last time, they had only been able to strike when Daphne came to the main house. Tonight, he could not miss this perfect opportunity. A ball of cold black magic formed in the man's hand, and he thrust it toward the girl on the bed. But the seemingly sleeping girl suddenly spoke. Restrain! In an instant, several tendrils of dark purple magic tightly bound the man, rendering him immobile. The man was shocked. What is this? Daphne sat up leisurely and smiled at him. Foolish human. This is how black magic is properly used. The man was incredulous. Impossible, you were just an ordinary child before. Have you been hiding your true strength, or is this one of the Duke's traps? Still trying to figure it out? Even in dire straits, you don't forget to gather information. That's worthy of praise. Before he could react, the man was slammed to the ground. He struggled to lift his head and glared at Daphne. Who are you, really? Why should one who is about to die know that? The man tore off his mask and expelled a massive wave of black magic from his mouth, surging toward Daphne like a violent tide. No one but the leader has ever been able to withstand this. To his shock, the powerful attack was easily neutralized by Daphne. You dare use such lowly magic against me? You're 100 years too early to harm me. Witnessing his ultimate move being so effortlessly dismantled, the man was dumbfounded. Although black magic and the Calamity's power both derived from death energy, Daphne's power was clearly far superior. Breaking this level of black magic was child's play for her. Stumbling to the ground, the man finally accepted the truth. This girl was not someone he could handle. He had to get this information to the leader. He channeled black magic into his own heart. If he died, his companions would sense the loss of his presence and report it to the leader. All for Ghost! But Daphne wasn't about to let him have his way. With a wave of her small hand, the black magic in the man's heart was forcibly extracted. The man was utterly broken. How is this possible? To me, death is a natural result of cause and effect. I am the great black dragon, the evil Calamity. Daphne grabbed the man by the collar, her eyes now purple and blazing with undeniable authority. Your life belongs to me. All death can only be realized through the Calamity. Now tell me everything you know. The black mage had snuck into the Duke's residence in the dead of night, attempting to assassinate the 5-year-old Daphne Agwin. But Daphne, now a different person, quickly subdued him and forced a shocking secret from his lip. A black mage organization called Ghost was not only bent on eliminating their old enemy, Duke Horace, but also planned to hunt down dragons to obtain the fragments of God, and then use the power of death to rule the world. Daphne's eyes flashed with mockery. Even the gods can't do that, and yet mere humans dare to dream. Perhaps it was this very belief that they could do the impossible that made these people so dangerous. After all, they had already succeeded in slaughtering the white dragon. Ghost had targeted Daphne because they wanted to kill her before her curse activated, thereby seizing the vast death energy within her. Currently, Ghost had not yet acquired complete power, which meant she still had time. But as long as she continued to live in this body, she could not escape their pursuit. If they launched a sudden, large-scale attack with no warning, Daphne would be hard-pressed to respond. The only way out was to become stronger. If she could surpass all existing beings, she would not only be able to defeat the Duke, the Emperor, and Ghost, but also break the curse and change her destiny. Just then, the elf Teddy pushed the door open. The moment he saw the strange, dark, paper-thin object on the floor, he was terrified. "Lord Daphne, what is this monster? Why is there a corpse in your room? He's not dead yet, and he can't die here." Fighting back his nausea, Teddy examined the black mage. "Oh my, you've drained him of every last drop of power. If I didn't know better, I'd think you were a vampire." Daphne shared the intelligence she had gathered with Teddy. Teddy sneered. "Mere humans dreaming of ruling the world? But the fact that they killed the white dragon? It's hard to say what the future holds." Daphne warned Teddy to be careful, but her own fighting spirit was kindled. "Since they dare to provoke me, I won't let them succeed. You take this guy and get rid of him. Leave no trace." She had noticed how he had tried to commit suicide, and suspected that Ghost members had a special way of communicating with each other. Teddy thought Daphne wanted him to kill and bury the body, and his face turned pale. But Daphne said calmly, "No need for such trouble. Just dump him somewhere far away. I've already erased his memories. My principle is not to kill." Teddy silently prayed that she would hold on to that principle for the rest of her life as he prepared to dispose of the paper-thin man. Then he remembered something. "I've heard reports of the great sage being sighted in the western desert. I'd like to go investigate." Daphne pulled her covers back up. "Fine. Go." Teddy felt a bit wronged. "My lord, do you have any idea how far the western desert is from here? I'm not going on a pleasure trip. Can't your loyal slave get even one word of praise?" "Are you still going? Wah, I'm going. Goodbye." At dawn, Knight Commander Lloyd was already standing on the training ground. He remembered when he first joined the Knights. He used to train in the middle of the night. In truth, the Agwin Knights had never been very famous. Unlike other noble knights, they didn't even have official titles. This was because the Duke himself was hailed as the Empire's greatest sword saint. He bore almost all the glory and responsibility alone. Outsiders would scoff, "What can the Duke's knights do? Isn't the Duke the one who solves everything anyway? They're just decorations living off the Duke's protection." Many knights who had once sworn to stand beside the greatest sword saint had quit within a year, unable to bear the mockery. Those who remained had gradually lost their fighting spirit, and their training had become perfunctory. Then Lady Daphne, frail and sickly, had appeared. Day after day, she ran on the training ground. Even if she ran until she coughed up blood, she still showed up the next day. The knights had never been so inspired. He'd heard that not long ago. She had also stopped a black magic attack. Twice now, with such a weak body, she had saved so many people. It was truly remarkable. Lloyd resolved to work even harder. When the young lady returns, she would see a different knight's order. Just then, Eris arrived at the training ground. Both were surprised to see the other up so early. Eris said he couldn't sleep and had come to the training ground since he was awake anyway. But Lloyd noticed his evasive eyes. "Are you discouraged, Master Eris?" Eris looked back unnaturally. "What did you say?" "Seeing how Lady Daphne successfully stopped that attack, do you feel disappointed, even jealous?" Having his thoughts read, Eris quickly denied it. "No. I just think Daphne is amazing. I even wanted to praise her. Why would I be jealous? Absolutely not." "You should be jealous." Lloyd's words made Eris freeze. "It's because of dissatisfaction that people become stronger. Talent may be dazzling, but it can't match the accumulation of hard work day after day." "Do you truly believe that all your years of hard training have been for nothing?" Eris silently clenched his fists. Yes, Daphne might be ahead for now, but one day, in the name of a knight, he would stand proudly beside his father. Daphne walked into the training ground and found the knights lying all over the place. Lloyd trotted over excitedly. "Miss, I've increased their training intensity. Since you've been fighting so hard, how could we remain idle? We're all working hard for the future." Master Eris has also volunteered to join. Daphne looked at Eris, who could barely stand upright. "Are you referring to that skeleton over there who's only half alive?" Lloyd looked on approvingly, a hint of pride in his voice. "I tried to discourage him at first, saying it was too intense, but the master insisted on participating the whole time. He hasn't missed a single session. At this rate, he'll become a fine swordsman in a few years." Daphne nodded. "That's good, but why are you telling me this? You should report it to the Duke." Then Daphne remembered the real reason she had come. She looked at Lloyd seriously. "Do you know where I can find black mages?" Lloyd's face changed, his voice suddenly tense. "Miss, you're not thinking of going on the offensive, are you? You absolutely cannot. You may have gotten lucky and survived this time, but you might not be so fortunate next time. Hearing this, Daphne's expression darkened, as if she had just heard the most ridiculous joke. Luck? You call it luck? Fury blazed in her eyes. She grabbed Lloyd by the collar. Then let me show you firsthand whether it's your luck or my strength that's greater. Lloyd quickly apologized. Just then, a green figure suddenly jumped in to stop her. Daphne, you're still sick. Why are you out of bed? It was Bapera. Daphne paused. Eris was even more surprised to see Bapera. What are you doing here? We haven't seen each other in 2 years. But Bapera ignored him completely and walked straight up to Daphne. You need to worry about your own health. You just woke up not long ago. She pulled a bottle of potion from her bag and handed it to Daphne. I made this myself. I hope it helps you recover. Daphne took the bottle and examined it. The liquid was clear and pure, of a very high concentration. Daphne was secretly delighted. This child has talent. If she is cultivated well, she will be very useful in a few years. Seeing that Daphne not only didn't refuse but even smiled, Bapera was overjoyed. She really likes the gift. Bapera had been worried that she might just throw it away like before. It seemed Daphne had truly changed a lot. She couldn't help but think of that arrogant elf, Teddy. He had surprisingly accepted her as his disciple and enthusiastically announced, You're Bapera, right? From today on, I'm your teacher. I hate humans, but you are different. Once I've trained you, I'll be free. So let's work hard together. The elf was strange, but that he had sent him to teach her might be a subtle gesture of goodwill from Daphne. Bapera remembered her mother's last words. My dear daughter, please take good care of your little sister. Bapera resolved not to disappoint her mother. She shoved a whole bag of potions into Daphne's arms. Take these too. She listed the ingredients and effects of all the potions in one breath. Seeing Daphne's lack of reaction, she worried that she had talked too much and annoyed her. If you don't like them, I'll take them back. No, they're good. I will use them well. Thank you, sister. Seeing such a heartwarming scene, Eris was completely confused. Wait a minute. Can someone tell me what's going on? Don't ignore me, both of you. Bapera, why wouldn't you leave your room when I asked you to, yet you're so close to Daphne? Bapera blushed and explained that Daphne had helped her, so now she had to fulfill her responsibility as an older sister to take care of her. Eris stared at the girl who had shut herself away for 2 years because of Daphne's bullying, now approaching her so trustingly. Perhaps Bapera had also sensed Daphne's change. This harmonious atmosphere almost felt like a real family. By the way, what is that potion? When did you learn alchemy, and are you sure it's safe? Don't worry, it works well. I've tested it all on myself. Daphne and Eris both cried out in shock. What? Like cutting myself and applying the potion? Drinking it when I'm exhausted? Or taking it when my magic is depleted? It seems to work pretty well. Daphne and Eris were speechless. You're insane. Do you know how scary the side effects of potions can be? Just then, Daphne had an idea. Since the knights are going to be training hard and will inevitably suffer from exhaustion and depleted magic, Bapera, you can test your potions on them from now on. Don't hurt yourself anymore. Eris immediately agreed. Yes, their bodies are strong, so there's nothing to worry about. The knights, who were already lying on the ground, wept silently. Whatever. We're all going to die anyway. After the commotion died down, Eris felt cheerful. No matter what, Bapera, it's great that you're finally out of your room. The 3 of us haven't been together like this in a long time. It would be perfect if our oldest brother were here too. Bapera nodded softly. This is already quite good. Eris put his arms around the 2 girls' shoulders and smiled brightly. Yes, this is good. Such a warm and intimate moment made Daphne a little uncomfortable. Yet an unfamiliar sense of peace gradually began to relax her. 2 children with no blood relation to her were making Daphne experience what it felt like to have siblings. At last, the 3 of them could get along. The Duke stood quietly by the window, watching the scene from afar, deep in thought. Just then, his aide Bolin walked in carrying a stack of documents. My lord, the palace is awaiting our response regarding participation in the campaign against the Black Mages. Not long ago, the Black Magic terrorist attack in the capital had exposed the fact that remnants of the enemy had not yet been eliminated. The public was in a panic. To quell the unrest, the Emperor had ordered the complete eradication of Black Mages and promised great rewards to those who distinguished themselves. This order had quickly spread to all the noble families. But the Emperor had also privately summoned Duke Horus. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. You've already lost so much. I can't bear to burden you any further. I hope you will make the choice that is right for you. The Duke looked out the window with a deep gaze. If it were for Alice, seeking revenge would be the right choice. But Black Mages were like weeds. Even if trampled and burned, their roots ran deep and would spread again. Should he once again throw himself into that endless fight? Bolin watched the Duke's lonely back. knowing that he himself probably would have crumbled under such pressure. But my lord, if you retreat now, it will be even harder to move forward in the future. Please reconsider. Just then the door burst open. Daphne strode in. Duke, I have a question for you. How did you know I was here? Your disgusting aura, I can smell it from a mile away. Don't think I can't sense it. The Duke was surprised. He had deliberately suppressed his presence in the mansion. Could Daphne still detect him? The corner of his mouth twitched almost imperceptibly. Balin and Daphne both looked at him in confusion. Go ahead. What do you want to know? Tell me, where are those black mages? Black mages? Why are you looking for them? To defeat them, of course. I'm asking you why. Daphne hesitated. She couldn't very well say that her true goal was to absorb their death energy. It must be for revenge. Bolin's sudden statement made Daphne pause. Because the black mages have hurt so many people, you want revenge. To think you're already planning revenge right after recovering. Your selfless, noble spirit that disregards your own safety to help others. Truly, you are your father's daughter. Daphne was about to deny it, but at the last part she nearly cursed out loud. Who wants to be that bastard's daughter? Are you truly seeking revenge? Seeing that the Duke was reacting, Daphne was torn. Should she just insult him and get kicked out, or pretend to agree and use that to get the location of the black mages? After some thought, she decided to swallow her pride. Yes, I want revenge. With your current strength, it's impossible. Besides, you couldn't even kill me. Daphne immediately regretted not having cursed him earlier. I heard you're learning swordsmanship. They say you have talent. The Duke suddenly changed the subject. I will teach you. Train with me, and your strength will quickly improve. Then you will have the power to fight the black mages. He had originally assumed Daphne would die, and had thus left her to her own devices. But now, the light in her eyes was no longer the dim glow of a dying person. Daphne scoffed. Why would I want to learn from you? I have no interest in someone like you. She turned and left. Bolin hadn't expected her to refuse so bluntly, and even the Duke himself was awkwardly stunned. Daphne angrily scooped a spoonful of dessert into her mouth. That bastard dared to offer to teach me? The arrogance! But there was another reason she had refused the Duke. Ever since dealing with the assassin, she had insisted on moving back to the separate residence. The main building had too many people watching, making it unsuitable for magic training. And the Duke's aura permeated the entire main building. If he sensed something unusual while she was training, it would be problematic. Although he wouldn't discover her true identity, that man's senses were terrifyingly sharp. She had to be careful in every way. Of course, the main reason was that she simply hated him, but seeing him so deflated was quite satisfying. That said, this separate residence was suffocating no matter what. Daphne could sense at least 5 layers of barriers. Maintaining such a level must have consumed the magical power of dozens of 6th-rank mages. Was there some hidden treasure here? Daphne asked the maid, Anna. Why is the security so tight in this separate residence? To protect you, miss. Daphne's eyes widened in surprise. How is that possible? Because your frail health is well known, the master feared that someone might harm you, so he ordered the court mages to place these barriers. Daphne couldn't believe her ears. That man would protect me? He clearly doesn't like me. The only time he shows interest in me is when he's waiting to see when I'll die. The idea was so ridiculous it made her laugh. Could it be that he actually likes me? No, impossible. Miss, the master may just be bad at expressing himself. I don't know exactly what happened when you were born, but he brought a bouquet of blooming osmanthus flowers for you. Awkward as he is, he undoubtedly loves you. Daphne was stunned, but instead of joy or excitement, she felt a faint, inexplicable sense of guilt. She didn't want that, because the person he loved was long gone, and she was not the real Daphne. The usually cold Duke had unexpectedly offered to teach his daughter swordsmanship, but Daphne flatly refused. Why would I want to learn from you? I have no interest in someone like you. Daphne's reaction had caught the Duke off guard. He went to the training ground to find Knight Commander Lloyd, hoping to get some insight. If I offered to teach you swordsmanship, how would you react? To his surprise, Lloyd interpreted this as, I am going to personally teach you swordsmanship, and immediately bowed 90 degrees. Please, your grace, teach me. The Duke started to explain that wasn't what he meant, but before he could finish, Lloyd had excitedly gathered all the knights and announced the wonderful news. Hearing that the Empire's greatest swordmaster would be teaching them personally, the knights exploded with emotion, many weeping tears of joy. Mom, I made it. Is this a dream? Is it true? I can die happy now. Faced with this scene, the socially inept Duke found himself with no way out and had to accept. So this is the normal reaction, he thought. Why was Daphne so resistant? The Duke began to feel a sense of defeat. Your Grace, there you are! A familiar voice came from behind. Daphne stood with her hands on her hips, pointing at him with great authority. The great me has decided to give you a chance. I will reluctantly let you teach me once. The sudden change of heart left the Duke baffled. Inside the carriage, Daphne looked out the window, her thoughts churning. She hadn't changed her mind for no reason. Remembering Anna's words and the sacred relic the Duke had given her, she gradually realized that the Duke didn't seem to hate her as the dragon. His silence seemed more like a clumsy form of protection. But this realization only made her feel more uncomfortable. She always knew she was Celis, the fearsome dragon of calamity, not the real Daphne Agwin. This unpleasant feeling was like she had stolen the goodwill that rightfully belonged to the real Daphne. However, rather than being led by these emotions, it was better to take this opportunity to wring everything she could out of him. This road looks familiar. You said we were going to practice swordsmanship. Where are you taking me? My swordsmanship is very powerful. To avoid harming innocents, I always practice alone in a separate place. When the carriage stopped and Daphne saw the old rundown cottage, her heart lurched. A wave of familiarity washed over her. It couldn't be. This place was... Fragments of forgotten memories began to crash against her mind. Human, isn't a sword just something you swing around a few times? Even if you are a dragon, you have no right to look down on my sword. Daphne thought she had long forgotten. To her, human lives were as fleeting as a flower's bloom, a transient sight not worth remembering. Yet the memory of this cottage and the old swordmaster who had taught her here, the only human who had ever accepted her as the calamity, remained nestled in the softest, most hidden corner of her heart. Tragically, because of her foolish pride, she had never even asked his name before he died. Why did you bring me here? The Duke looked at the cottage. This was my master's home. Daphne remembered the old man's teachings. A truly great existence is one that embraces those weaker than itself. Protecting the weak and defeating the strong, that is what it means to be truly Lobuchi. At last, she softly asked the question that was long overdue. What was your master's name? Beltio Agwin. He was also my grandfather. Daphne had never imagined that the only human friend who had accepted her decades ago would turn out to be the grandfather of her enemy. How ironic fate was. Not only had she taken the body of her only friend's granddaughter, but she now planned to murder his grandson. Daphne stared at her own hands. How could I have done such a thing? The Duke finished preparing the training ground and noticed that Daphne was looking dazed. Worried that she was feeling unwell, he was about to ask when he heard her suddenly laugh. It was a laugh that left him confused. Just then, Daphne turned her head sharply and looked directly at him. Duke, listen carefully. I'm only going to say this once. She took a deep breath. Please teach me swordsmanship. I look forward to your guidance. She had never spoken so humbly to anyone before and blushed. The Duke, taken aback by her sudden change in attitude, stood frozen, momentarily forgetting to respond. Just as Daphne was about to lose patience, the Duke scooped her up. If you feel unwell, speak up. We'll go back immediately. He had completely misunderstood her intentions. Daphne felt a surge of anger but held it in. Fine, I feel great. Then why are you suddenly so quiet? How could she explain? Because you're the grandson of my only friend. She struggled and urged him. Stop babbling. Put me down. Just swing your sword and I'll imitate your moves. The Duke's eyes suddenly turned serious. You're going to imitate my moves? Daphne, do you think this is something to be laughed at? Daphne's eyes widened. The way the Duke spoke and his expression were so similar to his grandfather's that it sent a chill down her spine. Basic training starts with push-ups. Do them until you're out of breath and your vision goes dark. He pointed to a dumbbell made of a huge stone, his tone brooking no argument. After that, endurance training. Carry that up and down the mountain. I've already prepared physical recovery potions. Just keep training. Unless you complete these 2 tasks within 3 hours, don't even think about touching a sword. Daphne sneered inwardly. Decades have passed, and his teaching methods haven't improved one bit. Still, to receive instruction from both grandfather and grandson, it felt almost like a gift of fate. Not a bad feeling at all. Daphne immediately began doing push-ups. Within 10 days, I will earn the right to hold a sword. This time, I will not give up. Just you wait, Duke. I will make you witness my greatness. Meanwhile, in a lavishly decorated room, a man paced back and forth anxiously. Damn it! That Daphne was supposed to be on the verge of death. How is she alive again? Did that elf doctor actually cure her? Looking at the newspapers, he ground his teeth in hatred. What is this nonsense about stopping a terror attack? And people actually believe it. He stopped abruptly as a thought struck him. Is Duke Horace so loudly proclaiming Daphne's heroic deeds as a way to warn me not to covet her position as heir? Is Horace trying to make Daphne his successor and using public opinion to suppress other contenders? That must be it. He says he hasn't named a successor, but behind the scenes he uses such underhanded tactics. Currently, the only legitimate heir to the Duke's estate is Daphne. When the Count had heard that she was about to die, he had thought his own son finally had a chance. Who could have imagined the situation would turn out like this? Horace, you lowly bastard trying to take everything from me? What must be done to completely get rid of those people? Just then a young man quietly approached. His golden eyes gleamed with a cunning light. It was the fox beast man, Domit. His voice carried a hint of temptation. Calm yourself, Count. I have a plan. The Count turned excitedly and asked him what to do. Domit smiled, his expression full of calculation. You should know that about a month ago, the supply of magic crystals suddenly decreased. Investigation revealed that the Black Mage organization was behind it. They attacked many merchant guilds and mines, forcibly plundering magic crystals. The Count was shocked. What? They started their activities that long ago? Domit's lips curled into a sinister grin. Yes, so a punitive expedition will be formed soon. All we need to do is have Lady Daphne assigned to that expedition. The Count's face changed. What are you saying? I want Daphne dead, but I don't want to kill her with my own hands. Don't look at me like that. I've thought this through carefully. Having the hero who stopped the terror attack join the expedition will greatly boost the soldiers' morale. But in the end, she's just a 5-year-old child. She might be caught up in playing the hero for a while. But how long can that charade last? Domit's words were pregnant with meaning. The soldiers who go into battle with her will see her true self. We just need to wait patiently for her to reveal her true colors. The Count's expression softened slightly. But as you said, she's just a child. What if the Duke refuses? Domit's smile deepened. Even better. Then there will be rumors that she is a coward who ran from the battlefield. That her previous heroic deeds were just luck. What kind of hero is afraid to go to the front lines? Hearing this, the Count finally relaxed. Let's do as you say. Domit, you never disappoint. I will not let that half-baked Duke's plot succeed. Domit bowed gracefully, his tone confident. Rest assured, Count. I will make sure Lady Daphne is ruined. The 5-year-old girl was doing weighted training, lifting a 500-pound barbell. Gritting her teeth, she finally managed to hold out for half an hour. The moment she put the barbell down, she collapsed completely. This was only the 4th day of formal training, and she had already deeply experienced the Duke's harshness. This grandson was even tougher than his grandfather. At this rate, even a worm could learn swordsmanship. Thinking that she had once been defeated by the Duke, the proud Celis felt a pang of wounded pride. Since the Duke was the grandson of the old man, she decided to spare his life for the time being. Perhaps in the future, when the Duke's family was in danger, she could help out once, but only once. She would not forgive that bastard Duke. Daphne took out a physical recovery potion and drank it down. Just then, Eris came over with a worried expression. Daphne, you've been training since this morning without a break. Father isn't forcing you, is he? Daphne looked disdainful. Am I the kind of person who can be easily forced? Thanks for your concern, but it's unnecessary. I'll do anything to get stronger. Seeing that Daphne was so fixated on becoming stronger, Eris was very curious about the reason. Daphne's eyes lit up with excitement. So that one day, I can punch the Duke right in the face. Eris was stunned. Your goal is to learn from Father and then use it to hit him? Exactly. That's it. Can I train with you? Sure, whatever. In the carriage, the Duke listened to his aide Bolan's report through a magic orb. His Majesty did not summon only one person. Many family heads were present, including Marquis Finch. The Duke understood immediately. They were going to form a punitive expedition against the Black Mages. His Majesty's summons was likely an attempt to entice the various houses to send their elites on this dangerous mission. Fine, since we have decided to follow orders, we simply comply. Bolan suddenly changed his tone, his voice tinged with worry. Master Eris is training with Lady Daphne. The intensity is very high, from dawn until now. If even Master Eris finds it hard to endure, can Lady Daphne's body really handle it? He might collapse again. The Duke was not concerned. Although his body is weak, his will is very strong. Bolan reminded him softly, he is not weak, he is short on time. So should we lock him back in the separate residence, break his wings, and call that the right thing to do? Faced with the Duke's question, Bolan insisted, I am worried that even if his hope is dashed, he will still attempt the impossible. The Duke's voice remained emotionless. Hoping or despairing are his own choices. No one can stop him. You are so strict only with the lady. Do you truly believe he can achieve something by training him? The Duke was silent for a moment. He remembered Daphne's vow to destroy the Black Mages. I don't know. But it's precisely because I don't know that it's worth trying. It would be a shame to give up just because the outcome is uncertain. Perhaps the act of trying itself is already quite remarkable. No matter how well you protect a bird, you cannot cage its innate desire to fly. By the 10th day of training, Eris, who had just finished his weightlifting, was half dead from exhaustion. I can't take much more. My heart feels like it's about to burst. Daphne gave him a look of contempt for a second, then casually shoved a physical recovery potion into his mouth. Finally recovering, Eris looked at Daphne with genuine admiration. You're really amazing. 3 years younger than me, yet you're enduring the same intensity. And you used to be so weak. Daphne was very proud. Are you only now realizing how amazing I am? Just then, the Duke and Bolin approached. Seeing that Daphne was still lively after training, Bolin was astonished. The lady actually persisted? How impressive! Daphne ran excitedly to the Duke. As you can see, I've succeeded. Now teach me swordsmanship. Very well. I will be away from the residence for a while starting tomorrow. I'll teach you some techniques first. Practice diligently before I return. Daphne was eager. Great! I'll practice so much that you won't believe your eyes. Eris watched the father and daughter walk away, a hint of sadness flashing in his eyes, which then turned into a bitter smile. What was I expecting? I'm not his real son. I'll go back to the knights. At least the swordsmanship there was also taught by father. Suddenly, someone tugged at his sleeve. Daphne looked up at him. What are you standing there for? Eris was flattered. Can I come too? Daphne pulled him toward the Duke and demanded loudly, why can't he join? Duke, why won't you teach him? He's been training with me. Bolin carefully reminded her. Miss, you and the young master are a little different. So what? Aren't you both his children? Is it really okay to treat them so differently? Is this what your master taught you? Eris hadn't expected Daphne to be so blunt. He was nervous and wanted to decline. But the Duke's calm voice rang out. I never said I wouldn't teach you, nor did I say you couldn't come. If you wish, then come along. Eris's heart raced. He could be like Daphne. A surge of joy and courage welled up within him, and he answered loudly, Yes, father. I want to learn swordsmanship from you, too. Thanks to the young girl's initiative, Eris, the adopted son, also got the chance to learn swordsmanship from the Duke. The Duke explained the essence of swordsmanship to the two children. The galaxy sword passed down through the Agwin family contains the mysteries of the universe. The universe embraces the birth and end of all things. We must learn its growth and ultimately understand its demise. Do you understand? Eris nodded excitedly at the Duke's theoretical explanation. But Daphne rolled her eyes. What nonsense is this? She couldn't help poking Eris. You really understand? Of course. What's so hard about it? This basic stuff doesn't even need to be said. Father is being very thorough in teaching you. Daphne was speechless. Back when Beltio taught her, she had just focused on memorizing the movements. She had never thought about such profound concepts. Since you can't generate sword energy yet, start with the basic forms. The Duke held his wooden sword, and with a flick of his wrist, produced several illusory sword shadows. This is Comet Wave Slash. It leaves traces like a comet's tail to confuse the opponent. Eris marveled. It creates afterimages. The enemy won't know which sword is real. The Duke nodded and looked at Daphne. Do you understand? To his surprise, the girl looked blank. What? The comet farted? The Duke looked at the stark contrast between the two children and sighed helplessly. Maybe it was still too early to teach her theory. But Daphne knew very well that this was the it's just an afterimage you idiot technique that Beltio had used. Why did he have to change the name to something so pretentious? Daphne rolled up her sleeves and stepped forward. Enough talk. Let's just try it. Eris thought he had misheard. You can already do it after seeing it once? To everyone's surprise, Daphne instantly unleashed several bursts of sword aura, leaving Ares completely dumbfounded. How is that possible? How did you do that? I just swung my sword. Daphne replied nonchalantly, but she could clearly feel that this move placed a massive burden on her body. Her stamina drained rapidly, and even her mana fluctuated faintly. If only a dark mage would fall from the sky right now, I could replenish my mana. She knew she had to adapt to this body quickly and find new ways to utilize her sword techniques. The Duke also found it unbelievable. That technique isn't something you can mimic just by seeing it once. Did you inherit my talent? Daphne protested. Why are you taking a roundabout way to praise yourself? Shouldn't you be praising me? Ares quickly tried to smooth things over. Daphne, it's rare for father to praise anyone with his personality. This is already amazing. Although the Duke felt the remark was a bit strange, he still wanted to confirm it once more. Because at the exact moment Daphne swung her sword, he seemed to have noticed something unusual. Since you want to see it so much, I'll let you watch to your heart's content. Just as Daphne was about to show off her skills, Adjutant Polin rushed over in a hurry. Your Grace, an urgent report from the palace. The expedition team, originally designated to subjugate the Dark Mages, consisted of 10 guards, 5 reserve guards, 10 knights from the Marquis of Finch, 8 from the Imperial Count's Rose Knights, and 3 from your Ducal Knights. But now a new member has been added to the list. The Duke unfolded the letter, his pupils contracting sharply. Written clearly on the paper was Daphne Akiwen. Poland frowned. They actually demanded that the young lady join the expedition team, under the guise of boosting morale. It's utterly absurd. The Duke's eyes were as cold as ice. Is this the Emperor's will? Or is it a scheme set up by other families to keep our ducal house in check? Regardless, sending a 5-year-old child to the battlefield is a blatant insult to our family. No matter who is behind this, I will make them pay. Prepare a reply immediately. Daphne will absolutely not participate in the subjugation mission. Who would have thought Daphne would suddenly jump out, her eyes shining brightly? A dark mage subjugation team? I want to go. I must go. Poland hastily tried to dissuade her. Young lady, this is not a game. Daphne, however, looked entirely determined. Duke, I must go. Don't worry, I'll suck all the dark mages dry. I'll defeat them all and come back. Looking at his daughter's enthusiastic appearance, the Duke suddenly felt a wave of exhaustion. Meanwhile, in the camp near the capital's walls, soldiers were busy preparing. A young man wearing a cloak was handling something in his tent, when 2 boys suddenly barged in with excitement. Sir Rachel, we just heard a very impressive story from the captain. The man was extremely amiable. He picked one of them up and asked gently, What impressive story? Tell me. Daphne is that hero. We heard she is your younger sister. Is it true? As the adopted eldest son of the Akiwen ducal house, Rachel's movements paused slightly. He then took off his winter hat, revealing a flawlessly gentle smile. Yes, that's right. She is my sister. The boys grew even more excited. And now this hero is coming. They say she's even younger than us, but she stopped a bombing attack. That's so amazing. Could you tell us more stories about her? Suddenly, a figure strode into the tent. Who said Daphne Akiwen is a hero? Apprentice knights shouldn't listen to rumors. Seeing the newcomer, the children instantly became thrilled. It's Sir Kenric Delayed, the legendary Grey Wolf of the northern battlefield. They say anyone who meets those blood-red eyes is doomed to die. Kenric patted the 2 children on the head, a hint of cruelty flashing in his one exposed eye. Don't you understand yet? Daphne Akiwen is no hero at all. The heroic tale of the 5-year-old girl risking her life to save others was already widely known, yet Kenric scoffed at it. Daphne is definitely no hero. The children looked utterly confused, but she really did risk her life to save everyone. It was pure coincidence. She never thinks of others. Everyone worships her now. But if we talked about all the bad things she's done, 2 days and 2 nights wouldn't be enough. Seeing the children still half-doubting, Kenric pointed to Rachel beside him and added with feigned apology, Sorry about that, Rachel. It must be hard for you to speak ill of your own sister, right? Rachel smiled mildly. It's fine. The truth is more important. We can't tolerate someone masquerading as a hero. Hearing even Rachel say this, the children's admiration for Daphne instantly shattered, and they left in disappointment. As soon as they were out of sight, the gentle demeanor on Rachel's face instantly crumbled. Damn it, why is that bastard still alive? Didn't they say she had an incurable disease and was bound to die? Beside him, Kenric seemed used to this. Rachel glared at him fiercely. Calm down? You know exactly why I left that house. I thought I'd never have to see her again, and now someone actually shoved her into the expedition team. His voice was thick with intense hatred. That family and the royal family, they've all gone mad. Kenric picked up an apple that had been thrown on the ground. I agree with that, but I actually think this is a good thing. Rachel's eyes sharpened. What did you say? Don't you think this is the perfect opportunity to expose those rumors? Kenric's words made Rachel pause. Do you really think Daphne's temper can stay hidden in the expedition team? Once the knights return to their respective territories, her true colors will naturally spread, and the rumors will collapse on their own. Kenric's confident reassurance gradually calmed Rachel down. Speaking of which, you haven't seen your family in a long time, have you? A look of annoyance crossed Rachel's face. By family, do you mean the ones who were abandoned, or the ones doing the abandoning? He pulled on his cloak, his voice cold. Either way, I don't need them. With that, he left the tent. 10 years ago on the battlefield, Rachel's biological father, Duke Ebet, entrusted him to his good friend, Duke Akiwen, right before he died. That was how Rachel was brought into the ducal house. Kenric watched his retreating figure with a sigh. He's completely backed himself into a corner. He was never this bad before. At the same time, the elf Teddy, who had failed to bring back the great sage, was trembling as he faced Daphne's fury. He explained that he had indeed caught the great sage, but the man had begged so pitifully that he had no choice. So you just let him go? Daphne jumped up in anger. Did he at least leave a message? He said the karma isn't settled yet, and he'll naturally come find us when the time comes. Daphne's heart skipped a beat. Karma was a law of the world known only to a very few existences. Even the elf standing before her knew nothing about it, so how could that human know? She suddenly curled her lips into a smile. What exactly is this guy's background? How intriguing. Did you ask him when this karma will end? Teddy smacked his forehead. I forgot. Daphne rolled her eyes at him and changed the subject to her joining the expedition team. Teddy nodded repeatedly. I know, I've already started preparing your potions. You're coming with me too, so hurry up and get ready. Teddy was dumbfounded. You've got to be kidding. My lady, I am a doctor. It puts me in a very difficult position when you keep making me do other things. Daphne's voice deepened. There's something you might not know. I have completely adapted to this body, and I can use my power in my own way. As soon as she finished speaking, dark purple mana erupted violently around her. Teddy scrambled backward in terror. I'll do anything, please don't kill me. Unexpectedly, Daphne burst into laughter. If you really didn't want to, I was originally planning to let you go. But since you insist, I'll reluctantly bring you along, you foolish elf. Watching Daphne skip away happily, Teddy was left standing alone, baffled in the wind. On the day of departure, Ares and the Knight Commander Lloyd came to see her off. Ares couldn't figure it out. With so many knights available, why did they have to send 5-year-old Daphne? Whoever allowed this must be out of their mind. Lloyd sighed softly. This is undoubtedly the work of someone jealous of the young lady, pulling strings behind the scenes. But if the young lady refused, her reputation would likely suffer. Ares interrupted disdainfully. Daphne's reputation is already bad enough. Does she even care what others say? So what if it gets a little worse? Who are you talking about? Daphne appeared suddenly, giving Ares such a fright that he shuddered, immediately covering his head and dodging to the side. You're about to leave. Could you go easy on me? Daphne sighed. I don't care at all about what others say about me, and I didn't join the expedition team for fame. I joined to catch those dark mages. Ares' eyes lit up. So it really is for revenge? Because our parents were cursed and you've seen innocent people suffer, you are filled with anger toward them? Daphne couldn't understand why these humans were always thinking about revenge. Ares clenched his fists, his voice full of guilt. You work so hard, but I can't help you with anything. Before you return, I will definitely master the Comet Wave Sword technique to perfection. Ares smiled brilliantly. I will become a brother you can be proud of. So you must come back safely. 5-year-old Daphne was sent to the front lines to subjugate the dark mages. To ensure her safety, the Duke specifically placed her right in the center of the knight formation, and even had her share a horse with the elf Teddy. However, Daphne felt extremely uncomfortable. The constant stares from all directions made her feel like a tourist attraction on display. Have you guys stared enough? Is there something on my face? Is there something on my face? Teddy suddenly remembered something. Perhaps it's because among the newly appointed guardians of the expedition team is Rachel Akuin. You mean the adopted eldest son of the Akuin family, right? Since that's the case, let's call him over and ask. Daphne looked at the accompanying knight. Hey, you over there. Go find my brother. The knight hesitated a bit. Do you mean young Master Rachel? A trace of awkwardness crossed his face, but he eventually turned his horse and left. His hesitant demeanor caught Daphne's attention. Teddy explained softly. From what I know, that Rachel is the son of a friend of the Duke. Because of that, the original owner of your body treated him worse than anyone else. Within the Akuin family, their relationship is probably the worst. There are even rumors that the reason he joined the apprentice knights was because Daphne forced him out. Daphne sighed helplessly. The original owner really stirred up trouble everywhere. Just then, Rachel rode over on his horse. Daphne, I heard you were looking for me. The corners of his mouth curved up, but there was no trace of a smile. Long time no see. Have you been well? Between his forced smile and their awkward past, Daphne understood he didn't want to see her. Since we've greeted each other, you can go back now. Rachel's expression stiffened. What? Didn't you call me here? I did, but I don't need anything anymore. Rachel fought back the urge to lash out. Fine, then I'll be taking my leave. As he turned his horse, he dropped a quiet remark. Still exactly the same. How repulsive. Rachel recalled that the tragic turning point in his life began with his father's death. He had begged his mother not to send him away, but she told him, Rachel, only by sending you to Duke Akuin will they give me money. We don't even have enough to buy a loaf of bread right now. Mommy has no other choice, so please don't blame me. Listening to his mother's high-sounding words, Rachel felt immense heartbreak. He could clearly see the brand-new necklace around her neck and the sparkling rings on every finger. Was his existence really worth less than those pieces of jewelry? Fortunately, the Duke's family treated him well. The Duke devotedly trained him, and the Duchess cared for him gently. His fear of being abandoned again gradually settled. Later, when Bipera and Ares were also adopted, Rachel finally saw a hopeful future. This place felt like a real home. Perhaps one day he could naturally call them father and mother. However, after the Duchess passed away, everything changed again. The Duke stopped paying attention to them, and he felt as if he had been abandoned once more. But for the sake of his younger brother and sister, he gritted his teeth and endured. He waited silently, both in mourning for the Duchess and in hope for the Duke's return. Yet, the Duke never paid them any mind again. Meanwhile, Daphne's bullying toward him grew worse by the day. "Don't you know you were sold here? How long are you going to play the victim? You're not a real child of this family at all." Every time he thought of these things, Rachel felt deeply frustrated. He only wished Daphne would leave quickly. He never wanted to see that face again. Earlier, Kenrick was leading his team during a training break. A pink-haired man approached him. "Sir Kenrick, you're close with Rachel, aren't you? Have you heard any news? Like, when will the little lady of his family arrive? How much do you know about her?" The man appeared respectful on the surface, but clearly had a look that said he was waiting for a show. Kenrick frowned and glared at him. The man immediately feigned innocence. "Don't look at me like that. None of us have met the little lady. With a little girl coming to such a dangerous place, we're just afraid of accidentally offending her." Kenrick's face darkened. "You're obviously just trying to fish for information. Drop the act in front of me." The man's smile vanished after being exposed. "If Sir Kenrick doesn't want another beating, wouldn't it be better to just tell me nicely?" "What did you say? Just because you beat me twice, you think you can get cocky?" The man acted as if he was going to draw his sword. "Just tell me already! What kind of person is this Daphne? There are so many rumors lately about her being a hero. If you don't talk, I'll annoy you until you do." Kenrick pressed his fingers against his temple, a chill flashing through his bright red eyes. "There's nothing to say. Don't be fooled by the rumors. Daphne Aquin is nothing but a crazy bastard." 5-year-old Daphne traveled with the Night Order to join the expedition team. As evening approached, the group set up camp. The elf Teddy brought out his harp and played a melodious song by the dancing campfire. Daphne, meanwhile, chatted casually with the knights sitting around her, the atmosphere warm and harmonious. But this scene left Kenrick utterly shocked. "How can this be?" Nike patted him on the shoulder. "Sir Kenrick? Seeing what just happened, don't you have something to explain to us?" Watching Daphne's polite and natural interaction with the knights, Nike felt like he had been completely played for a fool. "You know perfectly well that we Guardians are knights directly under the royal family, and we must leave a good impression on Duke Aquin. Yet you went around spreading rumors that his daughter is a monster, a wild, rampaging lunatic who is both irritable and mischievous. We deliberately gave the little lady the cold shoulder because we believed you. Now it seems, were you intentionally feeding us false intel so we Guardians would all go down together?" Kenrick was momentarily speechless. He didn't know why Daphne had suddenly become like a different person either. It was one thing for the Duke's knights to be close to her, but even the knights from the Marquis of Finch's family were treating her gently. She must be faking it. Nike rolled his eyes at that. "Is that so? Then why don't you go try and make her show her true colors?" Kenrick stepped forward, determined to tear off Daphne's disguise completely. She was only a 5-year-old child. Provoke her a few times, and her true nature would reveal itself sooner or later. To please Daphne, Teddy had specifically snatched another elf's harp to play music for her. "For Lady Daphne, this is nothing." Daphne nodded in satisfaction. "I really want to keep you by my side forever." Hearing this, Teddy's hand trembled, and the strings let out a harsh, discordant noise. "What? Are you unwilling?" Teddy grimaced. "How could that be? I am very willing." The melody began to flow again, but for some reason, it carried a faint undertone of sorrow. The campfire's light danced softly across Daphne's face. Looking at the knights laughing and chatting around her, her thoughts began to drift. People always said dragons enjoyed solitude, but that saying was wrong. She had always been lonely. Being able to share warmth with others was what truly brought her joy. Of course, not everyone accepted who she was now. "Hello, my lady. I am Guardian Kenrick Delayed and also a friend of Rachel." Daphne put down her cup and looked up at him. "Hello." Her gaze swept past the other Guardians in the distance, who were averting their eyes. "So, is there something you need?" "Nothing important. I was just worried that the rough food in the wild might not suit your taste." Daphne patted her round little belly. "It tastes pretty good." Kenrick coughed lightly, changing the subject. "Are you satisfied with your resting place? In the wild, we can only use the earth as our bed and fallen leaves as our pillows. I fear a delicate lady like yourself might find it hard to adjust." Daphne pointed a finger, and an exquisitely crafted, naturally eco-friendly sleeping mat caught Kenrick's eye. The knights eagerly chimed in. "It's stuffy in the tent, so the young lady made this herself. If you're curious, she can teach you how to make one." Kenrick gritted his teeth secretly. Impossible. This must be some sort of trick. The Daphne he knew was lazy and gluttonous. How could she make this herself? "My lady, your health has always been frail. The cold night dew in the wild will likely make you uncomfortable. Why not head to a nearby village now? You'll surely find warm lodging and better food there. Kenrick continued to set traps for Daphne. Daphne sighed helplessly. I know you hate me, and I'm already used to it. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. She stood up, walked over to Kenrick, and looked up right into his eyes. If you insist on doing this, forcing me to throw a tantrum and leave so you can ruin my reputation, is your only goal to humiliate a little girl? No, we are here to subjugate the dark mages. Have you forgotten? As she finished speaking, Kenrick and the other guardians fell into silence. At that moment, Rachel returned from patrol. Strange, why is the camp so unusually quiet today? Kenrick's face turned beet red. He apologized to Daphne and hurried away. Seeing this, Rachel quickly chased after him. The two of them stopped by the bushes. Faced with Rachel's questioning, Kenrick spoke in a low voice. Daphne already knew. She knew we hate her, and she knew the purpose of our deliberate provocations. She told us to stop wasting time on meaningless things and focus on dealing with the dark mages. Without a single complaint, she understands what's most important better than any of us. Kenrick laughed at himself mockingly. In that moment, I suddenly felt incredibly pathetic and ashamed. It seems she really has changed. But Rachel didn't believe it at all. How is that possible? Didn't you see with your own eyes what kind of person she is? I have. But today she truly acted the way a young lady of her status should. I know it's hard for you to accept, but at least see for yourself what she's like now. Rachel sneered. Then what about all the torment I suffered before? You want me to just stand by and watch as she acts like a kind child and gets pampered in a corner where no one knows the truth? Stop joking. Rachel punched the tree trunk, deep resentment churning in his eyes. Just you wait, Daphne. I will expose your true colors to the whole world. Once arrogant, domineering, and foul-tempered, Daphne now seemed like a completely different person. Gentle, composed, and always prioritizing the bigger picture. Yet Rachel, her eldest brother, refused to believe in her transformation, secretly vowing to reveal her true nature. My lady, are you just going to let him do whatever he wants? Daphne sighed while making her sleeping mat. It seems Rachel's resentment toward me runs much deeper than Ares's or Bapera's. Just let him be, ignore him. Teddy, however, couldn't stand Rachel. If he's dissatisfied, why can't he just say it straight out? Sneaky humans like him are so inefficient. Do you hate humans that much? It's not that I hate them, I just find them frustratingly stupid sometimes. We're all creations, yet they always seem inferior to elves. Daphne chuckled. In my eyes, all of you are equally insignificant, yet you look down on each other. Don't you find that amusing? Teddy felt deeply hurt. My lady, how can you say such cold words in such a gentle tone? Besides, you're way too merciful to humans. That's because humans are the weakest. The more powerful an existence is, the more it should protect the weak. Teddy disagreed. If it's their own fault, why should they rely on others for protection? Elf, do you think strength is eternal? Even the strongest existence will eventually decline, and even the tiniest life has its meaning. If I were the only one left in the world, what use would my strength be? It's exactly because the weak exist that the strong have value. Teddy was momentarily speechless and had to change the subject. By the way, we set up camp earlier today than yesterday. The sun hasn't even set yet. Just then, a pink-haired figure popped out. Want to know why? Let Nike tell you. Because this area recently experienced earthquakes caused by the disaster dragon. Since the problem can't be solved overnight, it's better to rest early and tackle it with full strength tomorrow. Hearing the word earthquake, Daphne's expression stiffened. Teddy leaned in and whispered, My lady, was that earthquake really caused by you? I just wanted to save the villagers from a landslide, but I accidentally used a bit too much force. Were the people saved? If they were, I wouldn't be called a disaster. Unaware of the truth, Nike continued to comfort her. Don't be afraid. That evil black dragon has already been eliminated by your father. Daphne's mouth twitched. Teddy quickly held her down, repeatedly urging her to calm down. Observing from afar, Rachel frowned deeply. Daphne had been chatting normally with the others all afternoon. No hitting, no scolding, and no strange behavior whatsoever. What exactly is she plotting? Kenrick thought for a moment. Could it be that the Duke sent her on purpose? He knows you left home because of Daphne, so maybe he wants to use her change to make you go back voluntarily. Perhaps the Duke just misses you. Rachel scoffed. That Duke doesn't care about anyone except the Duchess. He's probably forgotten about someone like me long ago. Even if that's true, I won't give him what he wants. Until the subjugation is over, I won't speak a single word to Daphne. Late at night, Daphne picked up her sword and walked alone deep into the forest. Riding a horse all day was tiring enough, but she still had to continue her training. After all, the Duke had warned her that even 1 minute less of practice would be noticed. The forest really is filled with a bizarre aura, just as the expedition team said. Is all this really because of me? Suddenly, she stopped in her tracks, coming face to face with three dark mages. I told you to be careful, the expedition team is nearby. Whatever, we'll just kill anyone we see. Seeing she was just a child, they didn't take Daphne seriously at all and gathered around to discuss. Daphne was annoyed. Who exactly are you discussing killing? Secretly, she was thrilled. These three dark mages had delivered themselves right to her doorstep, making it convenient for her to absorb their death aura. I only have one question, why are you here? One of the dark mages immediately perked up. We were ordered to come here and find the remains of the great disaster dragon. Daphne's eyes darkened. The great sage had said that finding her true body would give her the answers. Are these people also coveting my dragon body? You looking for the remains? To seize that lord's power, of course. Idiot, shut up! His companion kicked him over, turning to Daphne with a fierce look. Brat, it's time to send you to the afterlife. He channeled his dark magic, and dark purple flames surged from his palms, rushing straight at Daphne. She leaped gracefully, but the flames still grazed her arm. As she landed steadily, the dark mage panicked. She was hit by my dark magic. How can this child still be alive? The burning pain from the wound made Daphne pant softly. This dark mage's mana wasn't as strong as the assassins from before, but fighting 1 against 3, she wasn't entirely confident. Daphne reached out her hand and an orb of light gathered in her palm, growing brighter and brighter. What are you trying to do? Daphne replied with an innocent look. Calling for backup, of course. In an instant, a dazzling light pierced the night sky, instantly waking the expedition team at the camp. What is that? Assemble quickly. It's the death aura. There are dark mages. Rachel hadn't expected dark mages to actually appear here. Meanwhile, Teddy was looking around frantically. Lady Daphne, where are you? You didn't go off looking for those dark mages first, did you? Teddy's words made Rachel's face pale. Daphne is missing? The 5-year-old girl went deep into the old forest to practice swordplay in the middle of the night, only to bump right into 3 dark mages. After a brief skirmish, Daphne decided to summon her teammates. Sensing the anomaly, the expedition team quickly assembled and charged deep into the forest, their chaotic shouts tearing through the night sky. Everyone be careful, do not come into contact with their death aura under any circumstances. But the dark mages' counterattacks grew increasingly fierce. Daphne leaped onto a branch, watching the intense battle below. Good thing I called for help. If I fought alone, things would likely have ended badly. She had thought the dark mages would be at a disadvantage due to their small numbers, but their combat strength was surprisingly high. If things continued like this, the expedition team might suffer casualties. But if the dark mages were annihilated just like that, she wouldn't be able to absorb their energy. Daphne was conflicted. If she went down to fight now, it would definitely arouse the knight's suspicions. Just then, an anxious shout came from afar. Daphne, where are you? If you're still alive, answer me quickly! Rachel demanded urgently. Teddy, you're her guard. How could you not even know she was missing? If this was Lady Daphne's own decision, I have no right to stop her. Stop making excuses. What if something happens to her? Watching the two arguing from a distance, Daphne felt a wave of suspicion. She could understand anyone else acting like this. But why was Rachel so worried? Didn't he always hate her? After a moment of hesitation, Daphne jumped down from the branch. I'm right here. Rachel rushed forward immediately, questioning her sternly. Why did you run off to a place like this? Do you know how dangerous it is right now? Go back to the camp immediately. With that, he grabbed her hand, ready to leave. But the dark mage's energy hadn't been absorbed yet. Daphne resisted. Let go of me. I can't leave yet. Stop being stubborn. What can you possibly do here? Before he finished speaking, a blast of dark magic suddenly struck Daphne from behind. Rachel's pupils shrank. With barely any time to think, the sound of tearing flesh rang out and a large splash of blood fell to the ground. Rachel shielded Daphne tightly in his arms, while his own arm was struck by the dark magic, the flesh rapidly decaying. Daphne stood frozen until she heard his pained gasp, suddenly snapping back to reality. Why? Didn't you hate me? Why did you save me? Rachel's voice trembled from the intense pain. Does that matter at a time like this? It's very important. You clearly hated me. Just how despicable was I in your heart? Rachel cut her off, gasping as he growled in a low voice. Did you think I would just stand by and watch my sister die? I don't like you, but you've been tortured by illness since you were young. You finally made it here. How could you die in a place like this? His voice weakened, yet every word was clear. I don't like you, but that doesn't mean I want you to die. So you have to live. After saying this, he completely lost his strength and collapsed to the ground. Daphne stared at him blankly, a storm of emotions surging in her heart. She had always prided herself on being strong, believing that protecting the weak was a matter of course. But if their positions were reversed, could she have gone to such lengths for someone? She came here only to absorb mana, yet these knights were fighting with their lives on the line. Compared to the weak humans, her own perspective was much narrower. What a disgrace to the dragon race. She handed the unconscious Rachel over to Teddy, then took out a mana enhancement potion and downed it in one gulp. Even if she risked being exposed, she could no longer run away. If she didn't act now, it would truly be too late to salvage the situation. On the other side, Kenrick was engaged in a bitter struggle with a dark mage. The enemy suddenly unleashed an ultimate attack, a thick, dark purple mana roaring toward him. Yet the power bizarrely paused in midair, as if it were afraid of something. Just as the dark mage was feeling confused, Daphne walked toward him step by step. Kenrick hurriedly tried to stop her. "My lady, get out of here quickly!" Daphne merely hooked her finger, and the death aura that had been rushing toward Kenrick abruptly reversed direction, piercing straight through the caster's own chest. The dark mage violently spat out blood and staggered to his knees, his eyes filled with horror. "How is this possible? You can actually control someone else's death aura!" What terrified him even more was that the power in his body was rapidly draining away. "You're absorbing my power." Daphne looked down at him, her purple eyes as cold as frost. "Because these were originally mine." In a matter of moments, all three dark mages were dealt with, their power completely drained. Kenrick, who had witnessed the entire scene, was dumbfounded. "My lady, how on earth did you do that?" Nike and the other knights also gathered around, shocked and bewildered. "Anyone who touches the death aura gets severely injured. Why are you completely unharmed? Are you a mage? But you come from a family of knights, that's impossible." Daphne was momentarily speechless. What was meant to happen had happened. How could she explain this away? "It's because Lady Daphne has been cursed." Teddy, standing to the side, suddenly spoke up. "The dark mages once placed a curse on Lady Daphne. Because of that, she gained the ability to control the death aura." Daphne quickly nodded along. "Exactly. I didn't want to reveal this. While this curse brings me pain, it also granted me this power." The group was stunned by this revelation. They had always thought Daphne's frail health was due to illness. They never expected it was actually a curse. However, the next second, the side effects of the potion hit her violently. Daphne coughed up a large mouthful of blood and fainted on the ground. The 5-year-old girl single-handedly turned the tide of the battle, capturing 3 dark mages alive and saving the expedition team from a crisis. However, having overdrawn her power, she ended up coughing blood and fainting. In a nearby village inn, everyone sat in silence, the atmosphere heavy and oppressive. What if something happens to the little lady? The death aura surrounding Daphne at that time had been too intense, and the way she frowned while unconscious looked extremely painful. Amidst the silence, one knight suddenly spoke up. Could it be that Duke Akiwan foresaw this situation and deliberately sent the young lady? Did he know she possessed that cursed power and brought her along to save everyone at a critical moment? The Duke isn't that kind of person. Rachel, who had kept his head down the entire time, suddenly looked up. Does making such guesses alleviate the guilt we feel for being so weak that we dragged her down and caused her injuries? The knight hurriedly explained that he didn't mean it that way. The room fell into silence once more. Rachel's mind kept replaying Daphne's words. "Didn't you hate me? Why did you save me?" The look of disbelief in her eyes back then made him feel deeply unsettled. Yes, he still hated her. The mental torment Daphne had put him through all these years wasn't something easily forgotten. In Rachel's heart, she was still a bad kid. But, "Daphne, please don't die. At least let me keep hating you in the future." Right at that moment, the faint sound of footsteps came from the stairs. Everyone looked up in shock to see Daphne slowly walking down by herself. Kenrick stepped forward immediately. "My lady, you shouldn't be moving yet. Are you feeling all right?" Daphne waved her hand slightly. Her steps were a bit unsteady, but she walked straight toward Rachel. Rachel hurriedly stood up. "Are you okay?" Daphne steadied her breathing and looked up at him. "I'm fine. I just have a few words I need to say." She recalled the moment Rachel desperately blocked the attack for her. His posture was so natural, as if protecting her was his undeniable duty. Even though he was covered in injuries himself, his first reaction was still to confirm her safety. This kind of almost instinctive, selfless protection made her feel a sense of unfamiliarity. Yet it was something she couldn't ignore. "You are an amazing brother, and thank you for saving me." The great sage, walking alone in the barren desert, suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked up at the star-studded night sky. The moonlight draped over him like a light veil. A strand of white quietly touched the ends of his hair, but he curled his lips into a profound smile. "It seems Lady Daphne has succeeded? It's finally time to bid farewell to Karma." The expedition team split into 2 groups. Guardians Nike and Fiona escorted the dark mages back to the royal capital, while the rest continued their mission. Kenrick earnestly advised Daphne, You have already sacrificed too much, and your body hasn't recovered yet. You should return to the ducal estate to recuperate. How could Daphne agree? She had finally managed to increase her mana to 230. How could she give up halfway? She needed to drain a few more dark mages to solidify her strength. None of you can withstand the death aura. Without me here, you'll all die. She had intended to use these arrogant words to make them keep her, but the effect was completely unexpected. Hearing this, the two knights teared up. Is the young lady refusing to go back because she's worried about us? So you wanted to protect everyone. We're sorry, it's our own weakness that caused you so much trouble. I think you guys might have misunderstood. Just as Daphne was about to explain, Rachel interrupted her. I don't know what you're plotting, but go back first. As an apprentice guardian, I've always lagged behind. But you made me rethink my path forward. I will also grip my sword tight. No matter the method, I will fight to the bitter end this time. Daphne frowned. Don't talk big. What can a weakling like you do? Be careful not to throw your life away for nothing. Henrik also made his stance clear with utmost seriousness. Thank you for your concern, but we have made up our minds. Even if we lack strength now, we will absolutely not let anyone die so easily. The surrounding knights all looked over, their eyes filled with earnestness and resolve. Please believe in us this one time, could you? Daphne was stunned. She let out a soft sigh and ultimately compromised. Why do you all have to go this far? She then summoned the elf Teddy, giving him a task. Follow them, and lend a hand if necessary. Teddy immediately pulled a long face. Why should I? I don't want to. Be a good boy and we'll wipe the slate clean regarding how you offended me yesterday. Rest assured, my lady. I guarantee the mission will be accomplished. The knights nearby clicked their tongues in secret. Weren't elves a race that frequently ignored even the Emperor's commands? What kind of leverage did the young lady have on him? Right before parting, Rachel called out to Daphne again, his tone still awkward. I'm very grateful for your help, but that doesn't mean I forgive you. But in the next second, he placed a hand on Daphne's shoulder and repeatedly instructed, you must take your medicine on time when you get back. Find a reliable doctor in the palace to look after you. Don't let Aries disturb your rest, and don't eat any weird medicine Bapera makes, understand? However, when Daphne finally returned to the ducal estate, an even trickier situation awaited her. The Duke, looking at the newspaper report about the expedition team capturing the dark mages, had a face as dark as iron. He looked up at Daphne, his voice exceptionally cold. This situation is far more serious than I imagined. Do you have anything to say for yourself? The girl was clearly the great hero of the dark mage subjugation. Yet the Duke's expression when looking at her was frighteningly dark. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Daphne protested indignantly. I've been wronged. I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I have to defend myself? The Duke scolded her in a deep voice. Do you know how much effort I've put into hiding the fact that you are cursed? Even if only a few people noticed, it's enough to cause a massive uproar. Daphne was unbothered. But isn't the result great? No one from the expedition team died, and we even captured the dark mages alive. Is there really a problem with that? The Duke slowly walked over to her, his gaze falling upon her. You're injured. Ever since capturing the dark mages that day, Daphne had slept for a full 24 hours. Even after returning to the ducal estate, she couldn't get out of bed for days. But Daphne didn't think it was a big deal. At that moment, a rather absurd thought popped into her mind. Are you, by any chance, worried about me? The Duke immediately denied it. Yet Daphne distinctly caught a fleeting look of concern on his face. The Duke subsequently issued a gag order, strictly forbidding anyone from discussing the curse. He warned Daphne to be extremely careful from now on. Daphne proudly raised an eyebrow. And you said you aren't worried about me? Then why tell me to be careful? The Duke turned to leave but was stopped by her again. Right, there's something I want to ask you. That dragon you defeated back then, where is it sealed? Ever since she learned that the dark mages were after the remains of her dragon body, Daphne had been bothered by it. She couldn't just sit by and do nothing. The Duke looked at her meaningfully. Why do you ask? Daphne probed tentatively. I know it's not something you can just freely disclose, but isn't it normal for parents and children to share a secret or two? If that doesn't work, just give me a little hint. Before she could even finish her sentence, she was picked up and tossed right out the door by the Duke. Nursing a belly full of anger, Daphne silently swung her sword alone in the training ground. For hours on end, she resolved that she didn't need that bastard Duke's help. She could handle it perfectly fine on her own. Now that her mana had risen to another level, as long as she grew stronger, she could definitely wipe out the dark mages completely. In an instant, she unleashed several sought-after images. Lady Daphne, you're here! A crisp voice rang out. Daphne turned around to see a pink-haired girl smiling at her. Hello, I am Brisa Finch. Do you remember me? It's truly an honor to see you again. Daphne then vaguely remembered her, the weak human girl she had met at the banquet before. Long time no see. Are you here for something? Brisa paused for a moment. I was given permission to visit you today, hadn't you heard? Daphne then vaguely recalled a maid mentioning it, and even reminding her not to train before afternoon tea. She looked down at her clothes, dirtied by sweat and dust. But you wait a moment, I'll go change right away. There's no need, my lady. You're fine just the way you are. Brisa quickly waved her hands. These are the marks of your hard work. I'm especially happy to see you like this. Besides, you are my savior. She still vividly remembered the sight of Daphne unhesitatingly plunging into the sea of flames to save her that day. Every time she thought about it, her heart swelled with emotion. She believed that as long as she stayed by Lady Daphne's side, she could become a better person too. Actually, I came to see you today unrelated to my family. I wanted to give you a gift, and I beg you to accept it. She carefully offered a box. Opening it revealed a bamboo sword. This is a specially made practice sword. It normally doesn't have an edge, but when injected with mana, a blade will form. Its weight can also be adjusted based on the strength of the mana. Daphne took it and swung it a couple of times. It felt light and smooth in her hands. To better display your swordsmanship, I also embedded a mana stone in the tip of the sword. Though it certainly can't match your true strength, it should be quite suitable for practice. What do you think? Daphne examined it closely. It was undeniably a top-tier crafted sword. Thank you. I will make good use of it. Brisa's eyes shone with excitement. That's wonderful, Lady Daphne. Blushing, she hesitated before speaking up. Do you remember when you called me your subordinate last time? Please officially appoint me as your first subordinate now, may I? Daphne was slightly stunned. Seeing her not answer immediately, Brisa quickly stated her case. I'm a mage. Even though I'm not strong yet, I recently formed a contract with a low-level elf. I'll be very useful, so please accept me as your subordinate, okay? She waited nervously for an answer. It was the first time Daphne had encountered someone so willing to be her subordinate, and she couldn't help but find it amusing. Do you even know what I'm going to do in the future, being in such a rush to be my subordinate? Of course I know. You're going to take action to save the Empire and take revenge on the Dark Mages. Daphne nodded, the corners of her mouth curving up slightly. All right, then I accept you. But to be my subordinate relying solely on a low-level elf won't be enough. I understand. I will continue to train hard. Then start running right now. Brisa froze. What did you say? Daphne flashed a sly smile. Want me to help you train so you fall asleep the moment your head hits the pillow tonight? Right now, immediately. Yes, Lady Daphne. In his office, the Duke sat in his chair, his eyes dark and solemn. Daphne actually knew about the sealing of the evil dragon. Yet, aside from him, who had sealed the dragon with his own hands, and the Emperor who issued the order, no one else should have known about it. Where on earth did she get this information? The secret that the evil dragon Disaster was only sealed had somehow been discovered by Daphne, making the Duke's heart sink heavily. How did Daphne find out? Have the Dark Mages already acquired this intel? If Daphne heard it from them, it would make sense. But how did the Dark Mages themselves find out? His doubts deepened, and he decided to confirm it himself. Inside the study, the Duke channeled mana into his palm and tapped the bottom of the bookshelf a few times. The surrounding light was instantly swallowed up. He strode straight into the deep darkness and soon arrived at a massive cavern. In the center of the cavern, a pitch-black giant dragon lay dormant, surrounded by layers of magic circles. This was the true body of the sealed Disaster, Celis. The Duke carefully inspected the area but found no trace of an intrusion. He frowned deeply. Since that was the case, where did Daphne's information come from? It's truly surprising that you've come to this cavern again. A calm voice sounded from behind him. The Duke immediately turned around, bowing respectfully toward the depths of the darkness. I offer my respects to the son of the Empire. The newcomer was none other than the Emperor, who was also the creator of this subspace imprisoning the Disaster. After some brief pleasantries, the Emperor asked the purpose of his visit. The fact that the Disaster is not dead but merely sealed seems to have leaked out, the Duke said, instinctively omitting Daphne's name. So it has finally come to this? It seems your Majesty already anticipated this. The Duke looked up and instantly froze in place. A brilliant golden light flared before him, and a massive, majestic golden dragon appeared, filling the entire space with its radiance. The dragon's body then transformed into human form, and an elegant woman with golden hair, golden eyes, and curved horns on her head calmly revealed herself. You are the second human to see me in this form. The Emperor smiled slightly, noting the Duke's composed expression with a hint of teasing in her tone. I thought you'd be more surprised. This is actually the most surprised I've been. The Duke lowered his eyes slightly. The reason he could never refuse the Emperor's commands, and always felt a sense of peace hearing her voice. Was it all because she was a dragon? Why did you allow me to see your true form? The Emperor snapped her fingers, and the surrounding scenery shifted. The cavern instantly transformed into a vast garden. Your leg hasn't fully healed yet. Sit down and let's talk. The Emperor looked into the distance. Where should I begin? You once asked me what kind of existence the disaster dragon was and why it brought about countless calamities. I didn't answer you then. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't. A bitter smile crossed the Emperor's lips. Karma exists in this world, and any action requires a price to be paid. But while this law applies to all life, it uniquely does not apply to a dragon like me. Even if the commands I issue are completely unreasonable, they will naturally be rationalized in your minds, leading to your obedience. Then why can't the law of karma bind dragons? The Duke asked, staring into her golden eyes. Because of the disaster. The Emperor chuckled softly. You really are a smart man. The dragons once longed for an existence that could bear our karma on our behalf. Another dragon and I refused, but the remaining 3 forcefully created her, and she is the great disaster. What you call the black dragon? The Duke fell silent for a moment. Then those disasters she caused, that was never her intention. She didn't do anything wrong. The Duke understood now. Salus was like a vessel, forced to bear the consequences of all the evil deeds committed by the dragon race. The Emperor sighed softly. After all, she was created by the dragons, so I wanted to take on this responsibility personally. Having you seal her was also for this reason. The Emperor's expression suddenly turned grave. I originally thought this would be the end of it, but the other dragons seem to have made contact with the ghosts. That's why the dark mages know that the disaster isn't dead, just sealed. The Duke finally grasped the entire situation. The other 3 dragons who created the disaster had now positioned themselves against the Emperor. To protect themselves, they were once again using humans. The Emperor suddenly looked straight into the Duke's eyes and asked, So please tell me, can you slay a dragon? Meanwhile, Daphne was frowning deeply at the newspaper in her hand. The expedition team fought fiercely against dark mages in the mines. 13 injured, 0 deaths. Hetty, you incompetent fool. I told you to protect them and you still let 13 people get hurt? Her eyes swept over the name of the dark mage organization mentioned in the report. Ghosts. Regardless, this name was finally known to the public. Once people realized that the dark mages were organized, the level of attention would naturally increase. And inevitably, some idiots would deliver themselves right to her doorstep. Daphne felt somewhat helpless. She was supposed to use this critical period to track down the dark mages, but the Duke restricted her freedom using various excuses. Not only was she forbidden from continuing her investigation, but she was also strictly banned from going outside under the guise of recuperating. What does it matter if this body gets well? It'll still be the same as always. Am I right, my subordinate? Brisa, who was sprawled on the floor struggling to do push-ups, felt like crying without tears. Why exactly was she suffering this torment here? The little girl had finally gotten her wish to become Daphne's subordinate, but she never expected that what awaited her was a grueling, hellish physical training regime. As another day of training ended, Daphne asked Brisa to try summoning an elf once, but Brisa found it very difficult. I want to summon one for you too, but ever since coming to the ducal estate, the elves haven't responded to me at all. Everything was perfectly fine when I was at home, but Daphne knew exactly why. Elves were extremely sensitive beings. Given the aura she exuded, probably only high-level elves would dare to appear. For Brisa, who could currently only summon low-level elves, it was simply too difficult. With your current level, the mana required for summoning is still far from enough, which is why you must build your stamina. Brisa wanted to cry but had no tears left. The intense training these past few days was really about to break her. Just then, Ares arrived at the training ground. I heard you were here, so I came looking for you. As he spoke, he directed his gaze toward Brisa, his brows furrowing slightly. Why is there someone else here? Who are you? Why are you staying beside Daphne? Hello, I am... Before Brisa could finish, Ares cut her off directly. I have no interest. You can leave now, sausage head. Brisa thought she had misheard. Did he just call her sausage head? Was the second son of the Akiwan family really this rude? But Lady Daphne didn't say anything. Could this be a test from my lady? Does she want to see how I handle this kind of situation? Thinking of this, Brisa put on a polite smile once more. I'm sorry, but I won't be leaving. Because I am Lady Daphne's first subordinate, it is only natural that I stay by her side. Ares frowned, turning around to question Daphne. Daphne, what is the meaning of this? I should be your first subordinate. Just like that, the two began to argue over who is the first subordinate, and the situation escalated to the point where they were about to come to blows. Just then, the maid Annie arrived. My lady, it's time for snacks. You can eat together with the young master and your friend. Daphne froze while biting into a sandwich. Friend? Who is my friend? She was unfamiliar with this concept. In her long life, the only one she could possibly call a friend was Beldio. Why, Lady Brisa, of course, you don't have to be shy. Just seeing you invite a friend over to play makes me incredibly happy. My lady, why don't you go out for a walk with your friend today? Daphne was puzzled. But didn't the Duke say I needed to rest and forbade me from going out? It's fine. The doctor already said you've recovered. If you say you're going out with your new friend, His Grace will definitely allow it. Finally getting a chance to go out, Daphne's eyes lit up. Then go quickly and tell him I'm going out. Just as Annie said, permission to go out was granted surprisingly smoothly. Learning that she could go out alone with Daphne Brisa, who had just been tangling with Ares, became instantly thrilled. A date alone with Lady Daphne? That's amazing. But I look like a mess right now. Please wait a moment, I'll go home and freshen up immediately. Daphne arranged to meet her at the Imperial Library and set off first. Unexpectedly, Knight Commander Lloyd followed along. What are you doing here? When the young lady goes out, it is only natural that she requires an escort. Daphne was helpless. She arrived at the Imperial Library located in the center of the capital. Because the Emperor strictly promoted education, anyone, whether noble or commoner, could enter freely. The library housed hundreds of thousands of books, with massive bookshelves reaching up to the vaulted ceiling in a majestic display. Daphne nodded in approval. Although that emperor had once ordered her death, this particular aspect was worthy of praise. She told Lloyd to wait in the main hall while she wove her way through the towering bookshelves. There was only one book she was looking for, The Birth of the Dark Mages. To truly defeat them in her current state, she needed more intel. After searching for a long time, she finally found her target. However, it was placed too high up, completely out of her reach. Just as she was planning to use magic quietly to retrieve the book, a well-defined hand pulled it out first. Long time no see, Lord Silas. Were you waiting for me? Daphne was stunned. Since you are the great sage, why are you here? Wait, if you're able to show yourself, does that mean that damned karma has finally ended? You are exceptionally wise as always. Daphne forcefully grabbed his collar, lowering her voice to demand, if that's the case, tell me quickly. What is the karmic retribution binding this body? What was the reason I was sealed? And how do you know all of this? There are still some lingering traces of karma concerning this body, so I cannot tell you just yet. The great sage met her gaze calmly. However, I came here to inform you of something else. Lady Daphne, how much do you know about the Dark Mages? Other than knowing they're a bunch of lunatics constantly screaming about hunting me down, I know absolutely nothing else. The great sage's gaze grew deep. They are people who serve the disaster and who have gained power by serving it. Daphne's pupils trembled. What did you say? Because Silas isn't the only dragon in this world. Daphne suddenly remembered that, besides the dead white dragon, there were 4 other dragons in this world. Which one of them granted power to the Dark Mages? That is also something I cannot tell you. Having asked all this without getting a single clear answer, Daphne was about to explode when the great sage suddenly reached out and gently wrapped an arm around her shoulder. I came today to inform you of Silas's secret. His forehead slowly leaned in, resting gently against the girl's. Why were you born as the disaster? And why are you uniquely bound by such karma? I will tell you right now. The long-absent great sage had finally appeared, unveiling to Daphne all the secrets intricately tied to her very existence. Meanwhile, inside the ducal estate, the Duke was pondering the Emperor's words. I plan to resurrect the disaster when the time is right. At that time, the name of the disaster and its karma will all dissipate. Afterward, I will eliminate all the dragons. Are you willing to walk this path with me? The Duke couldn't determine whether the Emperor's words were true or false. If the other 3 dragons truly created the disaster and had already made contact with the Dark Mage organization, ghosts, then they had long ceased to be agents of the gods. Since that was the case, there was only one thing left for him to do. Yes, I will walk this path with you. At that moment, Adjutant Poland arrived at the office, delivering an imperial edict from the Emperor. After reading it, the Duke frowned slightly. His Majesty wants to establish a hero training camp? Poland was taken aback and quickly took the edict to read it. Summoning children and teenagers, regardless of their status, to establish a training camp for the next generation of heroes. What exactly does this mean? The Duke explained, with the Empire's current manpower, it's difficult to fight a prolonged war against the Dark Mages. His Majesty is making early preparations. Although the expedition team has been deployed, aside from holy power, other methods are largely ineffective against dark magic. Now that the relationship between the Empire and the Temple is fractured, it's difficult for us to receive support. Therefore, training these children is to forge a trump card against the dark mages in the future. According to the Emperor's arrangement, the Duke himself would secretly search for and deal with the other 3 dragons. This move was also meant to select someone who could inherit the Duke's title as the hero. The idea is good, but the goal is to fight dark mages. Will any children really be willing to participate? I'm afraid even their parents wouldn't allow it. However, for commoners, this might actually be a great opportunity. Not only can they receive top-tier education, but those with outstanding performance might even become apprentice guardians. Moreover, if His Majesty applies just a little pressure, the nobles will have to respond. But Poland pointed to a small line of text at the end of the edict. It seems we are also among the nobles being pressured. It states here that every family must send 1 member to participate. The Duke was somewhat speechless. He was about to embark on a journey to slay dragons. Could the children in his family not even be granted an exemption? Just then, the door was forcefully pushed open, and Daphne barged in, her face full of anger. Sensing something was wrong, the Duke spoke up first. "Weren't you out with your friend? What happened?" Daphne took a deep breath, looking up at the Duke with a resolute fire burning in her eyes. "I want to completely destroy the dark mages." It turned out that at the library, Daphne had learned from the great sage that the ones who created her true body were driving the dark mages to spread death aura across the entire continent. Although their purpose was unclear, as long as the dark mages suffered losses, those beings would definitely show themselves. "I'm going to catch all those bastards and throw them into a fire pit, so please let me join the expedition team again." The Duke stared at her, silent for a moment, then handed her the edict he was holding. "Hero training camp? What does this mean?" "As the name suggests, it's an institution to train the next generation of heroes. I intend to send you there." But Daphne wanted to return directly to the expedition team. "After what happened last time, you're just as stubborn as ever. Once you enter the training camp, you will naturally have opportunities to deal with the dark mages. As part of the training, you might even be dispatched to the front lines. I believe this is the most suitable choice for you right now." Highly dissatisfied, Daphne violently tore the edict in half. "But I just hate the word hero." The Duke paused. "It just so happens I don't particularly like you either. Since you hate it so much, I'll give this opportunity to Ares. However, from now on, you will never be able to cross swords with a dark mage again." Speechless with anger, Daphne glared at him fiercely. "So annoying. Fine, I'll go." Unexpectedly, the Duke's tone suddenly turned stern. "But before that, who is the man outside the door? I never gave permission for outsiders to enter the estate." Daphne froze. She had intended for the great sage to sneak in and help, then formally introduce him afterward, but she hadn't expected the Duke to notice first. This moment, a man walked into the room with a smile, his posture composed. "I didn't think I could hide from your Grace's senses. Hello, I am Theosin. I have come to assist Lady Daphne, so please do not be overly guarded." Poland found the name unusually familiar. "Could you be the legendary great sage, Lord Theosin?" Theosin nodded slightly. "The world did indeed call me that once." Poland instantly became overwhelmed with uncontrollable excitement. "I am a fan of yours! When I studied at the Magic Tower in the past, the ancient texts were filled with your deeds. You are practically a blessing to humanity. I apologize if this is an inappropriate time, but could you give me your autograph later? I will definitely treasure it as a family heirloom." Theosin smiled warmly. "Of course." However, what Poland was curious about was, "My lady, how did you come to know such an important figure?" Daphne scoffed disdainfully. "What's the big deal? He's just someone Teddy introduced to me to be my slave number 2. Anyway, I'm keeping this guy around as a pet." Her matter-of-fact attitude left the Duke speechless. "Are you actually asking for my permission right now?" Daphne's lips curled into a brilliant smile. "Of course. You'll cover his living expenses, and if you need anything, just order him around. No need to hold back on my account." The 5-year-old Daphne was about to be sent to the hero training camp by the Duke. "Remember, you are the lady of the Akiwan family. You will be the youngest trainee there. Even so, you absolutely must not fall behind others. If you perform poorly in the entrance evaluation, not only will you be eliminated, but you will also never have the chance to participate in the subjugation of the dark mages in the future." Daphne waved her hand dismissively. "How laughable! How could I ever lose to those mediocre fools? Even in my current state, beating them all to a pulp would be more than enough. Too arrogant. It's not arrogance, it's absolute confidence in my strength." Changing the subject, Daphne took the opportunity to propose a condition. "Since you say I'm a young lady of this family, isn't it reasonable for me to learn swordsmanship fitting for that status? There's exactly more than a month left, so hurry up and teach me the second and third forms of the galaxy sword technique." The Duke was speechless for a moment. then suddenly reached out and pinched Daphne's soft, chubby cheek. Why are you pinching me? I'm telling you to wake up. You haven't even mastered the first form properly, and you're already dreaming of learning the second and third? Daphne glared at him unyieldingly. I can do it. I'll definitely punch you in the face soon enough. Hearing this arrogant declaration, the Duke didn't get angry, but laughed instead. Since you're so confident, I'll test you on the first form tomorrow. If you fail, forget about the subsequent sword techniques. Daphne stormed off to the training ground, grumbling about how annoying the Duke was. However, her resentment was soon drowned out by deeper thoughts. The conversation with the great sage Theosin revealed the truth of her existence. As the disaster dragon Celis, the reason she was different from the other dragons, the reason she survived bearing the name of disaster while constantly suffering persecution from all sides, was because from the moment she was born, she was created as a vessel specifically meant to bear the negative consequences caused by the other dragons. At this thought, a surge of mana violently erupted from her body, suddenly losing control and slicing a wound on her tender hand. Yet what hurt far more than her flesh was her torn heart. Her life had always been accompanied by hatred and persecution, walking alone through the long river of time. Even so, she had persevered, firmly believing that she was a dragon shouldering a great mission. Only now did she realize that her existence was nothing more than a garbage dump meant to clean up messes and contain filth. Was she supposed to just bow her head, accept her fate, and live according to the despicable purpose given to her by her creators? Absolutely not. I am a great dragon. No one can deny me. I am the master of my own life. She tightly gripped the hilt of her sword again, and surging mana poured out from the blade, detonating violently. With all her might, she swung a strike fueled by unwillingness and anger. Just wait and see. I will definitely get my revenge. I will live out my true self. The loud explosion of the sword aura startled Lloyd, who was passing by. He rushed into the training ground, entirely stunned by the sight before him. Amidst the swirling dust, Daphne lay unconscious on the ground. He hurried forward. Are you all right, my lady? What in the world happened here? He looked in disbelief at the deep sword scar on the ground. Such power. Even an ordinary swordsman would need decades of training to unleash it. Just how did this 5-year-old lady do it? Daphne fell into a long, fragmented dream. In the dream was a realm of nothingness, where countless lights and shadows flickered, weaving together the pasts of Celis and Daphne. Within those shattered fragments of time, the only clear thing running through it all was a bone-deep loneliness. But if this loneliness didn't stem from herself, but was a product meticulously designed and forced upon her by certain existences, then how should she face her life from now on? Severe pain jolted Daphne awake from her dream. Her whole body ached as if it were falling apart, making her small face scrunch up. This feels awful. She looked out the window, unsure of how long she had slept. Had the Duke's test been completely ruined? Just then, she noticed a card by her bed. On it were drawn 2 crooked stick figures dueling with swords, accompanied by Ares's childish handwriting. You must wait for me. I'll be able to duel you in swordsmanship soon, so you're not allowed to get ahead. Get well soon. Looks like that guy specifically came to visit me, but he really needs to practice his handwriting. She struggled out of bed and found a bottle of medicine quietly standing on the table. The label bore Bipera's neat handwriting. Don't get sick, my little sister. Even Bipera had specially prepared medicine for her. It seemed she really had been asleep for quite a while. When she walked into the living room, an exquisitely wrapped gift box caught her eye, with a letter resting beside it. Daphne opened the letter and almost burst out laughing. I just found this. It's not a gift I prepared specially for you, so don't get the wrong idea. It had Rachel's style written all over it. At that moment, a soft halo of light spilled from above. It was the White Lion's lamp, the family's sacred relic gifted to her by the Duke, quietly radiating a warm glow. Daphne could feel the Duke's familiar and steady presence from it. She suddenly began to laugh. But as she laughed, tears fell uncontrollably. The boundless loneliness of the vast nothingness in her dream had made her think things would never change. But now she felt the clumsy yet sincere care from those around her. I always thought I'd never even have friends, but without realizing it, I actually have a family. The little girl had been unconscious for a full 4 days due to mana depletion. When she woke up, what met her eyes were the little pieces of care her family had shown her. For someone who had always been alone, her heart swelled with an unfamiliar warmth. Because of this, Daphne always felt an indescribable awkwardness when facing them. But Ares came every day, quietly leaving snacks at the door before walking away. At night, Bipera would come to her bedside to whisper, I'm making a potion to help you recover. Please wait a little longer for me. Even the Duke came to see her. I'll consider you to have passed the test. I'll teach you the second form of the sword technique once I return to the estate. For now, focus on recovering. He paused, revealing a very faint, relieved smile. You're probably the only one who can unleash sword aura at such a young age. It truly is remarkable. The sudden praise made Daphne a bit uncomfortable. You only realize I'm amazing now? After spending so much time together, Daphne felt that her relationship with the Duke had eased considerably. But perhaps this easing was only because he still thought the original Daphne resided in this body? Daphne had no intention of hiding this secret forever. But on the day she revealed the truth, that bastard Duke would definitely want to kill her, right? If she waited until the dark mages were dealt with to confess, would they show mercy out of gratitude? The most likely outcome, however, was still being kicked out of this house. But Daphne didn't want to leave because this place was filled with an unprecedented sense of security. A place of belonging surrounded by love and care. Snap out of it! She suddenly raised her hands and slapped her own cheeks. Now was not the time to be addicted to warmth. The most important thing right now was to get stronger. Train, train, train some more. But since this body could unleash sword aura, it meant its potential far exceeded expectations. How exactly had she done it back then? She had absolutely no clue. A threshold she couldn't cross even after nearly 10 years of grueling training with Beldio in her past life, yet she had inexplicably crossed it now. Was it just luck? She picked up the Hero Training Camp instruction guide and scanned the clauses. This training camp evaluates solely on ability, regardless of status. Participants bear full responsibility for all accidents within the camp. Rewards and punishments are handled internally, and external interference is prohibited. In other words, even commoners could earn status through their own strength. It seemed the Emperor wanted to unearth the pearls buried in the dust. If there's anyone useful, taking them as a subordinate wouldn't be a bad idea. On the list of instructors were familiar faces she had seen in the expedition team, including Rachel. Daphne couldn't help but facepalm and comment, "With that guy's personality, it's bound to be a spectacular scene with him as an instructor." Still, he certainly had the qualifications to teach others. Although Daphne wanted to continue seeking guidance from the Duke, he was truly swamped with official duties, so for now she had to follow the arrangements. Daphne's gaze shifted out the window, where the shadows of the trees swayed gently in the wind. This was the place that taught her the nights were no longer lonely. She had to work hard. So hard that they wouldn't kick her out. A few days later, Daphne had fully recovered. Her first order of business was to settle scores with the great sage Theosin. "Lady Daphne, you look much better compared to when you were unconscious from the mana rampage." "Cut the nonsense, I have an important matter with you." Daphne's expression turned serious, getting straight to the point. "Tell me how to break the curse on this body." "Are you referring to the black butterfly disease?" The curse that had been lurking within her body like a ticking time bomb. "I know the method, but it is currently impossible to achieve." It turned out that high-level curses like the black butterfly disease contained a portion of the caster's core essence. Only by completely obliterating that power could the curse be broken. In other words, the caster themselves had to be killed. "But the person who cursed me is already dead." Theosin shook his head helplessly. "Even if a dark mage dies, their power does not completely vanish. After their death, their power enters an alternate space and is inherited and absorbed by newly risen dark mages. In other words, the power is cyclical." "So you're saying someone inherited the caster's power, which is why my curse still exists?" "Exactly. And the person capable of inheriting that kind of power is very likely the leader of the Ghosts organization. So you'll have to work hard." Daphne suddenly laughed. "I won't be working hard alone. You have to come help me too." "I don't need you to come with me to hunt dark mages. You just need to teach me magic." Theosin was stunned. "Didn't you unleash sword aura last time? Why not continue to hone that power?" "The sword aura hasn't appeared again since then, and I don't know how to trigger it again. So I want to start by training in magic first." But Theosin began negotiating terms. "Even so, why should I help you? I am a sage, and my services don't come cheap. I can't just help anyone casually." Yet Daphne seemed prepared for this. "Didn't you say you wanted to look inside my space?" Theosin fell silent for a moment. "Then what do you need me to do?" "I can only access up to 3-star magic right now. At this rate, I won't be able to unleash any great power, right?" Theosin felt a bit of sweat form. "Who told you that 3-star magic could unleash great power?" Then he suddenly understood. This great being was probably still using a dragon's standards to measure the human power system. Then let's begin by learning how humans use 3-star magic. At just 5 years old, the little girl had erupted with astonishingly powerful sword aura, but that power mysteriously vanished afterward. To become even stronger, she asked the great sage Theosin to teach her magic. 2 flames rose in Theosin's palms. One was an ordinary fireball, while the other was a fireball with mana condensed to the absolute limit. "Can you tell the difference?" Daphne stared intently at the fireball in his left hand. The mana was condensed sharply and solidly, containing much stronger power. As expected, you can tell the difference. Under Theosin's guidance, Daphne closed her eyes and focused, feeling the mana flowing through her body. She carefully guided and compressed it, gathering it in her palm. Soon, a dancing fireball emerged. "Look, I did it!" Theosin applauded in satisfaction. "As expected of you. Then please try creating 10 at the same time." Daphne's smile froze. 10? The power of a single fireball was ultimately limited. If she could control multiple at the same time, it could rival high-tier magic. Theosin's tone carried a hint of teasing. "What's wrong? Can you not do it?" Daphne's fighting spirit was instantly ignited. "Don't underestimate me. There's nothing the great me cannot do." A moment later, putting in all her effort, she finally managed to condense 6 swaying fireballs around her, her small face turning a bit pale. "Very well done. To achieve this level on your first attempt is already amazing." Theosin had originally expected her to create 3 or 4 at most. He hadn't anticipated that her sensitivity and control over mana would be so astonishing, as expected of a dragon. Right at that moment, Ares and Lloyd walked over, utterly dumbfounded by the sight. "Daphne, how can you use magic?" There were generally 2 ways to use mana. Mages constructed mana rings in their hearts to store and release it, while knights circulated mana through their bodies to strengthen themselves. As a result, mages had weaker physical stamina, and knights couldn't cast magic directly. Yet Daphne was clearly casting spells like a mage right now. Didn't she use sword aura before? Could it be that she's mastered both methods? Ares' shocked howling left Daphne speechless. Theosin slapped his forehead. "Oh my! I forgot to mention, humans indeed have different training methods based on their professions. You said you created a mana vessel yourself, right? That is actually very inefficient for a human body." Daphne's face darkened. "What did you say?" "This method requires forcefully injecting and expanding mana, making it hard to focus on magic manipulation while also being inefficient at strengthening the body." Daphne felt her vision go dark. Grabbing Theosin by the face, she roared, "Why didn't you say so earlier? It's already a done deal now. Do I have to scrap it? Did you even ask me beforehand?" Theosin pulled his face back, hastily adding, "But don't panic. If your goal is to become a magic swordsman, this method actually works. Although it's inefficient, it allows you to use both sword aura and magic simultaneously. Occasionally, some humans who break past their limits have succeeded. However, the last magic swordsman appeared 100 years ago. But since you are no ordinary person, it's entirely possible for you." Daphne instantly pictured herself majestically defeating the Duke. "That's great! I'm going to become a magic swordsman." Fired up, she announced to Ares and Lloyd, "From now on, I will learn swordsmanship from the Duke and magic from this guy. Once I become the strongest magic swordsman on the continent, I'll definitely wipe out all those dark mages." "We believe in you!" The 2 of them were instantly filled with admiration. "It is an honor to serve a great figure like you, and I will work even harder." Theosin leaned close to Daphne's ear and whispered, "But I can't guarantee success." Daphne, however, was brimming with confidence. "Talking about? Since the great me has decided it, success is a given." Meanwhile, in the estate of Duke Brown, the Count was complaining in dissatisfaction. "A hero training camp? How absurd. The title of hero should only be granted to those who have made great contributions. Moreover, a hero should be of noble birth. How can we let our children compete with commoner scum?" Duke Brown nodded. Who knows what His Majesty is thinking? He glanced toward a blond man in the corner. "You must be the Fox Beastman, Domit. I hear you are very clever, and the Count speaks highly of you." "You flatter me." After his previous scheme to force Daphne into the expedition team failed, Domit willingly cut off his own tail to apologize, thereby regaining the Count's trust. "A fox's tail is a priceless treasure. Your loyalty is truly admirable." Duke Brown shifted the topic. "Then, Domit, what countermeasures do you have regarding this matter?" "It is difficult to disobey a direct order from His Majesty, but we can try asking for something in return. For instance, outstanding graduates not only get to become apprentice guardians, but could also gain access to the Imperial archives." The Count found this preposterous. Even royalty cannot freely enter the archives. Why would His Majesty agree to that? Domit smiled. "It's a condition proposed specifically to be rejected. Afterward, we will present a more lenient request, allowing outstanding graduates to form their own private knight orders. It will be hard for His Majesty to refuse twice in a row, so he will most likely choose the latter." Duke Brown pondered this. Currently, the maximum number of knights a noble family could have was 50. If successful, this could significantly boost the family's power. Considering the original intent of establishing the training camp, it would indeed be hard for His Majesty to refuse this reasonable request. Moreover, if he refused, the royal family would lose their excuse to suppress us. However, there was one thing that concerned Domit. Daphne will also be participating. At the mention of that name, Duke Brown's face darkened. The memory of his son being brutally beaten by Daphne was still vivid. How could a delinquent brat like her possibly pose a threat to my son? The only one allowed to have a night order is my son. The Duke trekked alone through the scorching desert, following the Emperor's secret order to find the hidden dragon. But under the blazing sun, let alone a dragon, he hadn't even seen a single bug. He sighed helplessly. Rather than wasting time here, he'd be better off going back to handle official business. Right then, his communication magic sphere suddenly lit up. The Duke went on high alert instantly. He and Poland had agreed to only communicate in emergencies. Had something happened to Daphne again? The moment the Duke answered, Poland's excited voice rang out. Your Grace, Lady Daphne is incredible. She hasn't mastered sword aura for long, and now she can use magic too. Even the great sage says she's a magic swordsman prodigy seen only once in a century. Compared to that, the Duke's reaction was much more subdued. I see. Is there anything else? Poland was a bit puzzled. Aren't you happy? This isn't just an honor for the ducal estate. It's a huge deal for the entire empire. But the Duke coldly cut him off. Daphne's fate has already been decided. Don't give me pointless hope. Because of the curse, Daphne would soon die and her life would end in pain and torment. And all of this originated from the Duke himself. Because of this, even when Daphne acted willfully and even hurt other children, she was someone who was going to die. He could only try his best to be tolerant. But at some point, Daphne had changed. She didn't wait for her demise in fear, but faced the future head-on, working hard to stay alive. But how could a dark mage's curse be broken through sheer effort? He couldn't make any hopeful promises to Daphne. The Duke recalled his wife's dying words. My dear, even when I'm gone, please don't be too sad. We still have our children. Please let them live happily and love them with all your heart. But ironically, the curse had also stripped the Duke of his capacity to love. The passionate emotions he once held were now reduced to a barren wasteland. I don't know what to do. I've even forgotten how much I used to love you. A long sigh blended into the scorching desert wind. If only you were still here. Early in the morning, the great sage Theosin yawned with sleepy eyes. Daphne urged him repeatedly. Wake up! You still have a whole bunch of things to teach me. Theosin simply lay flat on the ground. Sorry, I'm just not an early riser. Daphne was at her wit's end with him. This guy was immune to everything. If pushed too far, he might pull a disappearing act again. Daphne decided to change her strategy. Actually, I don't really want to learn from someone like you anyway. Theosin sat up abruptly. Then let's just give up. Besides, ancient records regarding magic swordsmen are pitifully scarce as it is. Isn't that why you're the all-knowing great sage? Theosin's lips curled up, feigning modesty. I don't know absolutely everything. That's why I must learn from you. After all, you are the one who sees through all the truths of the world and seeks ultimate truth. This flattery worked wonders on Theosin. He smoothly got up from the ground. Since you put it that way, let's begin our training. Daphne secretly sighed in relief. The maid's advice was spot on. A few compliments worked better than anything else. Lady Daphne! A weak, hoarse voice suddenly cried out. A ragged, haggard figure stumbled toward them. Daphne was stunned. Which elf are you? Hearing this, Teddy almost burst into tears. I haven't been gone for long, and you're already getting close to another man? Was everything I've done for you completely replaced just because we were apart for a month? This is too much. This barrage of accusations made Daphne dizzy. Seeing no response from her, Teddy grew even angrier. I served you like a loyal dog. This guy teased you and ran away, yet you actually praised him? This is so unfair. Daphne finally understood. Teddy was feeling unbalanced. But didn't you always want to run away from me? That's different. You can't just kick me out without even a proper handover ceremony. Teddy threw a tantrum on the floor. Lady Daphne is a big dummy. Theosin leaned close to Daphne's ear and laughed. He's very different from the noble elves I used to know. I didn't know he'd turn out like this either. Daphne sighed helplessly, walking over to Teddy and softening her tone. Teddy, you misunderstood. No one can replace you. Your spot has always been there. You will forever be my most loyal servant. Hearing Daphne speak to him in such a tone for the first time in his life, Teddy was instantly moved to tears. Theosin, however, couldn't comprehend how a high-level elf could enjoy being treated like a servant so much. After a few days of training, Daphne swung her sword, unleashing a crimson flame, successfully merging magic with sword techniques. I finally did it. At this rate, my power will definitely increase rapidly. However, the intense training had already exceeded her body's limits, but she was still gritting her teeth and pushing through. A deep, cold voice came from behind. The Duke was standing by the edge of the training ground at some point, frowning deeply. In your current state, you'll faint again very soon. Daphne didn't even turn her head. I know my own body best. This much is nothing. Gazing at his daughter's back, the Duke couldn't help but ask, I really can't understand. What exactly are you pushing yourself so hard for? Daphne paused slightly. It was to get revenge on the dark mages and those dragons. But saying that would definitely raise the Duke's suspicions. As her thoughts raced, she blurted out, to stay here and not get kicked out, of course. The Duke never expected that his daughter was trying so desperately to become a magic swordsman, just to stay in this house and avoid being kicked out by him. Seeing the Duke's stunned expression, Daphne realized she had slipped up and hurriedly denied it. No, that's not it. I'm training hard because I want to get stronger and take revenge on the dark mages. Yet, despite her desperate attempts to cover it up, those words still touched the Duke's long-frozen heart. Daphne, do you really think I would kick you out? Why would you think that? Daphne lowered her eyes and sighed softly. Because I know you don't like me. Having me here isn't a good thing for you. And my existence and my curse are just a nuisance to you. Daphne knew very well that if the Duke ever discovered her true identity, what awaited her would likely be far more than just getting kicked out of the house. He might not hesitate to kill her again. Even if she somehow survived, she couldn't possibly stay in this house. Then those people she had seen as family, those who had constantly shown her warmth and care, would also meet a tragic end resulting from this warm time spent together. Daphne didn't want that. She didn't want to return to the darkness of being all alone. So my goal is to become strong enough. Strong enough that you won't be able to easily kick me out. When I grow up, I'll be useful to you, and you can use me however you like. To protect this hard-won warmth, she was even willing to be treated as a tool. That is my reason for pushing so hard. The Duke gazed at Daphne for a long time. He finally understood why Daphne's image kept lingering in his mind after returning from the desert. He slowly reached out and stroked her head, his movements awkward yet gentle. It's okay even if you become useless. No matter what lies you've told or what mistakes you've made, I will stay by your side, because I am your father. That night, a fully energized Teddy excitedly sought out Daphne. Overjoyed by her compliment of being her most loyal servant during the day, he presented the mana stones he had collected with the expedition team like treasures. The room was pitch black. Daphne sat on the balcony, bathed in moonlight. What are you doing here all alone? I've infused all these mana stones with magic. Please enjoy. Why is your face so pale? Has the curse worsened? Daphne turned her face away in annoyance. So noisy. I'm not in the mood for your jokes today. Leave the stuff and get out. Having spent so much time with her, Teddy instantly noticed her foul mood. He leaned against the balcony railing and asked softly, Did something happen? No. Answering that quickly makes it even more suspicious. Daphne remained silent. The Duke's words from earlier, I will stay by your side, kept burning in her heart. If he had remained cold to the very end, Daphne wouldn't have cared at all. But he just had to say something like that, making Daphne feel guilty for hiding the truth. She looked at Teddy and suddenly asked, Do you have family? Of course I do. I have parents and a brother I don't want to acknowledge. Let's speak hypothetically. If you found out your brother told you a massive lie, how would you feel? Teddy's face darkened. To be honest, that brother of mine hides a lot of things from me. I don't mind the small stuff, but if it was something major, I'd definitely be angry. Would you cut ties with him then? Teddy waved his hand. If I cut ties over something like that, I wouldn't have any family left long ago. What if there was actually another soul living inside his body? This sentence made Teddy freeze instantly, and he quickly understood. He walked up to Daphne, dropping to one knee with a solemn tone. Lady Daphne, I guessed early on that you possessing a human wasn't just to experience life. This body's connection to dark mages already reeks of ominousness. Teddy lowered his voice, almost as a warning. But you are of the great dragon race. If you insist on indulging in this playing house, you really will die at this rate. Are you truly planning to give up your identity as a dragon for this? If so, you might as well let me be the dragon. Daphne froze for a moment, then suddenly let out a bitter smile. You only say that because you've never tasted the feeling of being all alone. She looked up at the distant night sky and sighed. Actually, you're right. Telling them the truth will only bring them pain. Even this fear of hurting them is nothing more than my own selfish greed. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she had regained her composure. So it doesn't matter. At least for now, while she still has this body, she won't feel lonely. Eliminate the dark mages, get revenge for freedom and family. When it's all over, she will leave on her own. By then, all problems will be solved naturally. In the blink of an eye, the day for Daphne to join the hero training camp arrived. Rachel, who had just returned from the expedition team only to be dragged into work, was irritably scanning the list of trainees. There are 248 participants in total. I reckon most of them are probably useless trash. Just then, his pupils shook. His gaze locked firmly onto a familiar name. Daphne Akiwan? Why is she coming to a place like this? At the same time, on the training ground, Daphne was curiously observing the diverse array of trainees around her. Some were tense commoner youths, while others were arrogant noble children. Kenrick, serving as an instructor, stood on a high platform and announced loudly, "All personnel are accounted for. The entrance examination will begin immediately. Those who pass move on to the next round. Those who fail leave right away. The first round of examinations starts now. Everyone drop to the ground immediately." The moment the order was given, many pampered noble children froze on the spot. In contrast, the children of commoner descent instinctively obeyed, dropping to the ground without hesitation and rolling around as instructed. Meanwhile, quite a few noble children stood there at a loss, completely unable to swallow their pride to perform such an undignified action. Kenrick's gaze swept over the crowd. Those who haven't moved are all eliminated. But Daphne, despite being a noble, was different. Her crisp, decisive movements left bystanders dumbfounded. She didn't carry the baggage of nobility at all. After all, compared to the humiliation she endured when tortured by Beldio in her past life, this was absolutely nothing. The eliminated noble children were indignant. What can you even judge with something like this? We were just startled and didn't react in time. Facing their questioning, Kenrick spoke coldly. Will the ghosts warn you before they attack? Are you going to use the same excuse in front of them? In a flash, the number of trainees plummeted to 114. The second round of the examination begins right now. You just need to run laps around the training ground. There is no time limit. Run until only 50 people remain. Before he even finished speaking, a black-haired boy had already shot forward like an arrow released from a bow, his speed astonishingly fast. Seeing this, the other children gritted their teeth and followed suit. Daphne, however, wasn't in a hurry. She jogged leisurely at the back of the pack. Soon, some children couldn't hold on and collapsed directly to the ground. Bernie, a commoner boy, was already drenched in sweat and stumbling, but he still pushed himself forward desperately. I can't give up this hard-earned opportunity. My mom is still waiting for me. Just as his vision blurred and he was about to stagger and fall, a strong hand suddenly grabbed him from behind. Are you all right? If you're going to fall, you should at least protect yourself. Bernie stared blankly at Daphne. This girl appeared to be the youngest among all the trainees. Her breathing was steady, and her composed demeanor seemed entirely out of place in this grueling race. There are only a few people left to drop out. Hang in there a bit longer. With that, Daphne sped up and ran ahead. Watching her back, Bernie took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and chased after her again. Finally, Kenrick's voice rang out. There are exactly 50 people left. Good work, everyone. Now comes the true final exam. Deep in a certain forest, humid mist permeated between tangled tropical plants, and the swamp shimmered with a dangerous color. The blue dragon Laney suddenly heard a sharp roar. Lonnie, you knew I was coming, yet you deliberately put crocodiles in the swamp to torture me, didn't you? A woman with blue twin tails slammed a giant crocodile onto the ground, furiously questioning Laney. "Son, what are you talking about? Isn't it normal for crocodiles to live in swamps? Crocodiles live in rivers. This swamp is a special poisonous swamp you made. How could ordinary crocodiles survive here?" Lonnie chuckled softly. "Don't worry, this crocodile is a test subject that's successfully adapted to the poison. Why did you run over here? Didn't Khalid come with you?" Hearing that name, the blue dragon Atson looked displeased. "I can't find that guy, so I can only wait for him to crawl out himself." Then her tone shifted. "The ghosts contacted me recently. Do you remember the daughter of that cursed hero? The daughter of the priestess you hate." Lonnie's previously nonchalant movements suddenly paused. "Alice, of course I remember. That detestable woman had cost her an eye. How could she ever forget?" Seeing her expression suddenly turn cold, Atson somewhat regretted bringing it up. "Don't get agitated. The focus isn't on her, but on her daughter. That child was cursed by the former leader of the ghosts, and the current leader is trying to kill her to recover all his power. However, the assassin they sent mysteriously disappeared." Lonnie frowned, guessing, could he have been caught by the Duke? Atson shook her head. "She didn't leave the ducal estate. It's like she vanished into thin air. Even stranger, that child joined the expedition team organized by the royal family, single-handedly defeated 3 dark mages, and she completely resisted the death aura. According to the ghosts, that child seems to have utilized the power of the curse." Lonnie frowned. "Impossible. That curse is like chains engraved into the body. It cannot be used as power." "Exactly, I thought the same. It's simply absurd." Lonnie tapped her fingertips lightly on the table, a dark glint flashing in her eyes. "Since that child is Alice's daughter, perhaps I should go out and see for myself." The selection for the inaugural hero training camp was brutal. In just 2 rounds, the 248 trainees had been whittled down to a mere 50. Looking at the exhausted children sprawled all over, Instructor Kenrick's lips curled into a cruel arc. The final exam, a real combat brawl. This order instantly threw the commoner children into a panic. Combat brawl? We don't know any sword techniques. In contrast, the noble children opposite them scoffed. A bunch of mudlegs. We'll show you what true swordsmanship is. Before they could finish speaking, Kenrick cut them off. Using weapons during the combat brawl is prohibited. This is a pure test of physical fitness. Your knee touches the ground, you are out. You can gang up on others or run away, but you are absolutely forbidden from stepping half a foot outside the training ground. This will continue until only 30 people remain. The examination starts now. The screams rang out almost simultaneously. A black-haired boy wearing a red bow tie had already pinned another child firmly under his foot. He stated expressionlessly, "That's the first one." A chaotic brawl erupted. Roars and the sounds of physical combat intertwined, kicking up clouds of dust. How dare a commoner lay a hand on me? Do you know who I am? Suddenly, George, a young noble master, pointed at a commoner boy and cursed fiercely. The boy explained timidly, "But this is an exam right now." "What exam? Get on your knees and apologize to me immediately." Before he finished speaking, a figure swept past like a whirlwind, viciously kicking George to the ground. Clutching his backside, he cursed, "Which bastard dared to hit me?" Only to meet Daphne's icy, frost-like eyes. "It was me. Got a problem?" George's face turned pale. He couldn't afford to mess with the daughter of Duke Akawin. "How could you sneak attack me?" Daphne spread her hands, looking entirely justified. "So what? I've always been despicable." She turned to the group of dumbfounded noble children. "And the rest of you useless trash, come at me all at once!" Daphne dominantly declared war on the others. In truth, her stamina was already overdrawn. The long-distance run in the second round had nearly drained all her strength. Right now, she just wanted to finish this quickly and sleep until the world went dark. Just then, a rush of wind pressure came from above. The black-haired boy had leaped into the air. Daphne dodged sideways, narrowly avoiding the attack. Seeing Daphne unharmed, the boy looked very disappointed. That would have been the third one. What a pity. He took his stance again, radiating murderous intent. "I won't hold back this time." Daphne recognized him. He was the first to strike in every round of the exam. Facing his storm of punches, Daphne dodged gracefully, even seeming somewhat at ease. "Your moves aren't bad, but you're still far from matching me." Furious, the boy swung his fists even harder. "You high and mighty nobles never treat us like humans." Daphne was stunned. "What did you say?" "That look in your eyes like you're looking at trash. Is trampling on other people's dignity fun for you?" The boy's face twisted in anger. "If you guys get eliminated, you can just go back home and continue enjoying your privileged lives. But this is our only chance to change our destinies. Why must you snatch away our hope?" Daphne quietly looked at the incredibly angry boy before her. Ragged clothes, resentful eyes. It seemed he had suffered a great deal at the hands of nobles. "But why target me of all people? Have I ever bullied you?" Daphne didn't counterattack, but merely kept stepping back to dodge. "Brat, I won't claim to understand how you feel. But I can tell you one thing. You're not the only one desperate to win." Unexpectedly, an even deeper fire of anger ignited in the boy's eyes. "For someone like you who lacks nothing, what could you possibly be desperate for? Stop pretending to understand me. Do you think I don't see right through your tricks?" Realizing she was talking to a brick wall, Daphne simply delivered a heavy punch straight to his face. The boy fell flat on his back, his nose bleeding profusely. Before he could even react, Daphne's cold voice sounded in his ear. "Are you awake now? You don't know me and I don't have time to understand you, but don't vent your resentment toward others on me." Just then, the whistle signaling the end of the exam blew. The boy was startled. Without realizing it, only 30 people remained. "Now you've passed too. You have no reason to resent me anymore, right?" The boy didn't feel happy. He knew very well that the only reason he hadn't been eliminated was because Daphne had held back at the end. "Next time we meet, I'll fight you seriously. Good work today and good luck." Watching her retreating figure, the boy clenched his jaw tightly. The humiliation of receiving charity from a noble welled up in his heart. But beneath that humiliation, a spark of unprecedented fire ignited. "Just you wait. Next time, the winner will definitely be me." A shabby carriage sped along the bumpy road, packed tightly with 30 exhausted children. The noble children looked utterly disgusted, as if sharing a ride with commoners was a stain on their bloodline. Daphne, on the other hand, lay sprawled out ungracefully in the middle of the carriage, sleeping soundly. The people around were dumbfounded. How can she actually sleep in this situation? She's completely different from the image I had of her. Didn't you see the kick she used to send George flying? It was so fast I couldn't even see it clearly. Didn't they say she was weak and sickly? Was that just a rumor? As expected of a hero's descendant, we're simply not on the same level, are we? The newspaper recently mentioned that she stopped the dark mages. That's terrifyingly impressive. She might just end up taking first place in the training camp. What's so great about her? In the corner, a girl suddenly interrupted the discussion, staring gloomily at the sleeping Daphne. So what if she has the bloodline? When it comes down to it, she's nothing more than a notorious villain. Thanks to her dazzling performance in the selection trials, 5-year-old Daphne became the unspoken #1 among everyone. However, jealousy and resentment followed suit. She's just a notorious villain, relying entirely on her Duke father's backing. Otherwise, she would have been called trash long ago. The girl went on endlessly, listing Daphne's supposed crimes. At a banquet once, it was clearly her own fault for accidentally bumping into a maid, but she ordered the maid's head shaved bald. Then, complaining that the pastries weren't to her taste, she called the head chef over and slapped him right in the face. She even spat on the elders who tried to stop her. The girl lowered her voice with a warning tone. Anyway, stay far away from her. If you catch her eye, getting beaten half to death would be getting off lightly. Two noble boys exchanged a glance. Thank you for the warning. My name is William Kaiser. May I ask for the lady's name? Rachel Amon, William realized instantly. So you are the second lady of the Amon Marquise family. It's a pleasure to meet you. Both the Amon and Finch Marquise families were renowned for their immense wealth. Upon learning the girl's identity, the surrounding noble children immediately gathered around to offer their eager greetings. Bernie, a commoner, sat in the corner, silently watching this noble social gathering while grumbling inwardly. Is it really okay to badmouth someone to their face while they're asleep? He looked at the soundly sleeping Daphne, his heart full of doubts. Is she really as terrifying as the rumors say? She had even helped him during the second round of the exam. Which one was the real her? The carriage soon arrived at the training camp. The children got off one after another. Bernie, bringing up the rear, looked hesitantly at Daphne, who was still fast asleep. Should I wake her up? Remembering Rachel's warning, his heart tightened. But in the end, he felt that Daphne couldn't possibly be that vicious. He gently touched Daphne's shoulder. Wake up. The moment his fingertips brushed her clothes, a fist smashed heavily into his face. How dare a low-level elf rebel? Daphne suddenly bolted upright, cursing halfway before fully waking up. She blinked, looking at Bernie, who was sprawled on the ground, and leaned in curiously. Aren't you the guy with terrible stamina from before? Why are you lying here? Bernie grimaced in pain, now regretting immensely that he hadn't listened to Rachel's warning. Daphne noticed his rapidly swelling cheek and instantly grew furious. You actually got beaten up? Which bastard did this? Tell me quickly, I'll teach him a lesson for you. It wasn't until Bernie's trembling finger slowly pointed at her that Daphne suddenly froze. Oh, I did that. Sorry, I have bad habits when I sleep. Looking at Bernie tearfully clutching a knocked-out tooth, Daphne patted him on the shoulder. Your tooth. I'll definitely find a way to fix it later. I know an elf who is pretty good at healing. Hearing the word elf, Bernie's eyes lit up instantly. Disregarding his pain, he asked eagerly, Is it an elf who lives in the forest? Could you introduce him to treat my mom? My mom has been sick for a long time. The town doctor can't find the cause, and we can't afford a doctor from the city. Daphne was stunned. The first thing he thought of was his mother's illness. Daphne reached out her hand to him. You really are full of potential. From today on, you are my subordinate number 3. I like kind people, and kindness is rewarded, isn't it? Bernie didn't understand what Daphne was saying, but he simply held her hand tightly, genuinely feeling from the bottom of his heart that she was a good person. Not far away stood an ancient, eye-catching building. This was the hero training camp established by the royal family. However, upon stepping inside, the children's expectations instantly turned to disappointment. The interior was dilapidated and decaying, much like an abandoned haunted house. Is this really the dormitory? Could this be a scam? Amidst the whispers, Guardian Nike appeared on the training ground. Everyone, although the exam is over, your journey to becoming heroes has just begun. I am Nike, in charge of combat and overall training. This is Sword Instructor Kenrick, Tactical Instructor Fiona, and Apprentice Guardian and Teaching Assistant Rachel. Remember, you must obey orders unconditionally. Daphne immediately spotted Rachel. Long time no see, how did this guy manage to lose even more weight? Noticing her gaze, Rachel immediately turned his head, pretending not to know her. But Daphne was relentless, making frantic eye contact. Finally unable to bear it, Rachel mouthed a warning for her to focus. However, Daphne interpreted it as, love you, and even made a small heart gesture in response. Why are you randomly talking about love? Have you no shame? Watching Daphne make all sorts of heart gestures left Rachel utterly speechless. Fiona, on the other hand, mistook it for telepathy between siblings. Meanwhile, during the distribution of training uniforms, a young noble master complained that the clothes were too old and threw them hard on the ground. How can anyone wear such filthy clothes? And this broken down place, there isn't a single decent thing here. If I had known, I wouldn't have come at all. Do you know who my father is? Before he could finish, Daphne smashed a fist onto his head. Who cares about your dad? Is power your excuse for acting so arrogant? Keep spouting nonsense and I'll beat you until you can't even crawl. Nike was surprised by Daphne's sense of justice and spoke bluntly, Everyone, stop it. Trainee Typhy, if you insist on quitting, you may leave at any time. But the mark of shame for dropping out will follow you for the rest of your life. Are you sure you want that? Typhy clutched the large bump on his head, gritting his teeth, but ultimately didn't dare to utter another word. After the group dispersed, Nike marveled inwardly. In the past, during Guardian training, just enforcing discipline would take a whole day. This time, it was surprisingly quick. This young lady truly was a great help.